feedback sheets, and so if you don't have a pen, you're going to have to find one at some point. But this is helpful for me to know kind of what your takeaways are from today, and we'll have opportunities to pause and at the end of each of our sessions. And my hope is basically to have 3 sessions, and at the end of each session, pause, and I'll tell you what we'll do at that point. Time for reflection, time to get up to the bathroom, that sort of thing. And if you need to get up and go to the bathroom while I'm presenting or whatever, just get up, right? Just like you would at a family gathering, just get up. That's perfectly fine. So you can see the topic on the title on the screen and what we're going to be talking about, and I'll explain more of that in just a minute. But I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Jonathan Connor. I'm pastor this is our church building in Manning. So if you don't know where Manning is, I was explaining a second ago. If you know where Omaha is and Des Moines, if you go halfway on 80 and about 25 miles north, you'll find Manning. So as I tell people, we are centrally located. We're in the middle of everything, and we're close to nothing. So that's Manning. This is my family. That picture is not taken in Manning, in case you were unsure if there are mountains in Iowa. No, that's in the Teton Mountains. So my wife, Rebecca, and I have been married, will be 25 years this month. And we have 6 kids. 5 of them are boys. And yes, that means everything we own is broken. All right, so it just comes with boys. But we range from age 21 down to age 9. So that gives you an idea of who I am. And I've been at Zion and Manning for 15 years. One of the part-time things I do, obviously, is work with Lutheran Family Service. And I know you're familiar with Lutheran Family Service because my partner in our presentation is not this particular one, but the one that we do on creation and identity. Casey, obviously, member here, pastor's wife. So we have traveled all over the state doing that presentation. So it's a joy not only to serve with her, but to come to her church and get to greet you in person. So it's good to be with you. Okay, so our topic, like I mentioned, is screens, and most particularly we're going to be talking about what I would call the individualized screens, or the smaller screens. I mean, obviously I'm working with a screen here, I've got a screen here. So I'm not going to be giving a negative presentation like, screens are bad, because I'm using a screen, right, to give a presentation. I don't think screens are all bad, but I do want to get your attention. So some of the stuff I'm going to share hopefully will be very sobering for us, because all tools they're not neutral, okay? And no tool is neutral, and you can discover that if you're not sure you believe me. Is give a hammer to a toddler and see what everything becomes. A nail, right? Tools change us. They're not neutral. Doesn't mean they're bad. Doesn't mean they're bad, but it means they're not neutral, and we need to be wise enough to understand how these tools change the way we see the world, how they might change us as well. So the phrase I like to focus on, I call it the unpixelated 3-dimensional life. The unpixelated 3-dimensional life. So that's really what I'm driving after. And I have a very simple point, is this. You were made for more than pixels. All right? So the 2-dimensional pixelated life is an inherently disembodied life. All right? So it disembodies human interaction. And I'm going to tell you that ultimately this will not prove satisfying to embodied humans. And that shouldn't surprise us, because we really shouldn't expect for good to come to us if we're living out of line with the way reality is. Okay? Now, I'm not saying screens don't have a place. They do. But we need to understand that. And I like to say, if Jesus were to modernize his parable about building our house on the sand, I'd like to suggest he'd talk about building our house on pixels. All right? So, okay, I'm also going to suggest that this life, the unpixelated, 3-dimensional life, is and should be centered in the worship life of the church. The three-dimensional gathering, okay, of the hearing of the words, the receiving of the sacraments, right? Gathering around pulpit, font, and altar. This is an embodied experience. Think about it, the three-dimensional gathering of the gathered. That's a really profound thing. And that three-dimensional gathering then will flow out into our families. That's one of the things I love about the church, and I think God, who's usually ahead of the curve, he understands our nature. So he actually, when he three-dimensionalizes his grace, he allows us to answer questions like this. What does forgiveness feel like? It feels like water washing over you. What does forgiveness taste like? It tastes like bread and wine. What does forgiveness sound like? It sounds like the called and ordained servant of the word saying, I forgive you all your sins. But that's really profound to think that God three-dimensionalizes his grace. Right? There's something really important about that. And that will ultimately prove satisfying, not just eternally, obviously, but even temporally. That we're gathering around three dimensions. There's something really important about that. I will also suggest that you make the church the hub of your life, okay, of your unpixelated three-dimensional life. So you've seen this. Some of us as kids had this, the sliders on our spokes. Okay, that was a thing for a while. And the church is the hub right here, and you are one of these spokes. And so you gather weekly around the hub or at the hub. So the slider slides down the spoke, and then we go out into our life. And we slide back in, and we go back out. We slide back in, and we go back out. So we're going to make the church the hub of our life. So I also like to describe the church as it's the thing around which everything else has to move. Okay, now why do I say that? It's not for self-serving purposes. Okay, think about it. What is the only thing that Jesus attaches a promise of permanency to in the Scriptures? What does he say? Not even what will prevail against the church. Hell itself won't prevail, right? Won't prevail against the church. That the permanency of God establishing his grace in the midst of his people, that thing's not going anywhere. Everything else is going to go somewhere. So, for example, how many of you are still wearing the shoes you wore, if you're older, in high school? Probably not, because they wore out, right? Our kids in high school didn't wear the same shoes. Do they wear out, or they lose them, or they ruin them, okay? All right. Other things, more sober. So, if you're still employed, someday somebody else is going to have your job. Whether you retire or get fired or move, all right? You go home and sit in your living room tonight with your TV on and think about this. Someday somebody else might sit in your TV and sit in your family room and watch TV because you won't be there. All right? These things are all temporary. And even as the pastor, I'm pastor at Zion. Someday I will not be the pastor of Zion. Even if I'm there for the next 30 years. Someday somebody else will be pastor there. So in terms of our positions, in terms of our things, they don't have a promise of permanency. Sports. We love sports in America. Sports are great. Guess what? Sometimes you blow your knee out. Sometimes you just go and get old. Right? Sometimes you don't make the team. Sometimes sports will no longer become a possibility. So if we're going to build our life around something that has some permanency, it would be very foolish for us to make the thing that doesn't move something that's going to move. Okay? So we want to build our life around the thing that will not move. All right? So super important. Also, when it comes to what worship is, and I'll reference this book later, but there's a great book by James Smith called You Are What You Love. He talks about love, he talks about worship as this thing that orders your desires, that directs your love. I like to say that it magnetizes you toward your true north. all right? Because here's the thing. You are more than a thinking creature. You are a desiring creature, okay? Because you will pursue what you love, what you desire. Like, look, we all know that donuts and cookies and cake are not good for us. I do not have to give you a presentation on that to tell you objectively that eating lots of those things are not good for us. But if you I've been to pastors' conferences. It's probably the same way in Iowa East. If there are donuts out and a vegetable tray, the first thing to go is the donuts, all right? Even though we know they're not good for us, because we will follow what we love, okay? And what I also know about our human hearts as creatures is that we are fallen. That means our desires are out of order. Right? They're pointed in the wrong direction. They need to be aligned. And this is what worship does. So, and it's not even really about what you're doing. It's about what God is doing through his word, through his sacraments, through the church's liturgy. I mentioned James Smith, and he says, worship restores us. Not just restores, it restores us. Now, I want to share someone who had some deep insights on this. This is someone very close to you, Pastor Johnson. Now, many of you may know he was your cousin, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And died April 4th, 2023. He was my partner pastor. So to keep being too complicated, we're in partnership with a neighboring congregation about 10 miles west of us, Trinity Lutheran in Manila. He was my partner pastor for several years. Died at age 33. All right? Here's what he writes, though. And young people, I really want you to appreciate this. He says, the greatest gift my parents gave to me was getting my lazy rear end out of bed in order to attend Sunday school and worship. Every week we went. And every week, whether I knew it or not, the hymns, liturgies, creeds, and Bible stories etched themselves into my soul. Then you gotta love what he says next, because he was a quirky guy and I loved him. He says, it was as if I'd been bitten by a radioactive spider, Spider-Man, all right, and my superpowers were to receive and comprehend God's truth. I just want all of us to take that in, okay? Take that in. These, especially when you're raising your kids, forever, but when you're especially raising kids and grandkids, worship is shaping us. It's directing us. It's pointing us toward our true north. And I guarantee you, Pastor Johnson, when he was a kid, he probably complained about having to go to church. But as an adult, it was the greatest gift his parents ever gave him. He was thankful for it. Now, okay, let's talk about screens. Let's talk first about your brains. All right, this thing called dopamine. You probably have all heard of dopamine before. It's this great neurotransmitter, pleasure-seeking chemical. It's in your brain. God put it there. It's a fantastic thing. Some have called it the more chemical, but it's really more about anticipation. So if I were to have placed on the table a wrapped present, with a bow on it and everything else, just put it there, what would you be thinking the whole time?
Who's it for?
Who's it for, and what's in it? What's in it, right? I mean, this is. I should just ask, why do you wrap your kids' birthday presents? Why don't you just hand them the thing and just out, like it's just obvious when you just hand it to them? Here's your birthday present. Why do you wrap it?
Excitement?
Yes, right.
Anticipation?
Anticipation. It's all about that, isn't it? Right? Exactly right. I mean, why when you go to a play are the curtains closed? Why don't they just have it open so you can see everything up there? Anticipation, right? And we'll get to this, but you know when you watch videos online, like on Facebook or YouTube, and you get duped with the wait till the end, you're like, oh, come on. And watch different, why? You know why they're doing that? Because of dopamine. Because they know dopamine is this anticipation, this I want more, I am anticipating. It's this chemical that floods your brain with this pleasure that says, ooh, I'm anticipating this reward. I'm anticipating this thing, okay? So this is what drives us to want, the next level, the next relationship, the next advancement, the next show, the next whatever. So it's the more drug, it's the anticipation drug. And it's this chemical that moves us forward in anticipation. So it's very, very powerful, but it can also be manipulated very easily. Like I mentioned, wait till the end. You have all been suckered by that. And you get to the end, you're like, man, I just gave you my time for that. You got suckered, okay? So some have called your smartphone a Pavlovian box. Remember Pavlov, who would train the dogs to drool by ringing the bell, okay? And they point out that Apple has made $1 trillion by ringing your bell. They are really good at what they do. And companies they've invested just massive resources into tracking every move you make online, okay? To deepen their understanding of how to ring your bell, all right? How to manipulate your desires. So, I mean, every swipe you make, every click, every time you hover, for how long you hover, for how long you linger, for how long you watch the video, everything is tracked. What colors appeal? Everything is tracked so that they can manipulate your desires. I gave a presentation in Indiana here a while back at a men's gathering, and I had, I forget how many we had there. It was a good crowd, over 100 men at a men's gathering. And I had a couple of men come up to me afterwards, actually several, that worked in the tech industry. And they said, you're spot on. It's exactly right. I was in that industry. It's exactly what we were doing. And they had moral qualms with it and left it. But they said, that's exactly what's happening. Actually, there's a science behind it. It's called the desire engine. So you need some kind of trigger, some kind of clickbait, something to get you to take some action. But the thing that's going to keep you coming back, that's going to get you hooked, is this key called variable reward. Let me explain how that works. So let's all pretend you have a refrigerator with an ice maker on the outside. Push the button, ice comes out, right? Some of you have those things. When we got a new fridge last go around, I intentionally avoided getting one of those because I have kids. And I know what happens with those and kids. There's ice all over your floor all the time. So we avoided that. But let's just pretend, okay? We have one of those. Have you ever heard of anyone having to do an intervention because someone's addicted to the ice maker? Probably not. Kids, maybe. Kids will go around it eventually. But here's my thing. You probably don't find yourself lying awake at night thinking, I might give tomorrow for something. Because it's the same thing that comes out every time. You can get crushed or cubed or water. You get 3 options. But it's always the same thing. But what if every now and then it spat out a root beer float? Does that change things a little bit? What if every now and then it spat out a smoothie with whipped cream on top? You don't know when, but every now and then it's going to spit that out. Do you think that would change the way people interact with that? Absolutely it would. Do you think you might lie awake at night thinking, I'll have to get there before my son does, because I think the next time is going to be, yes. So this is how you build commitment to a thing. So you build in the variable reward, all right? And even the possibility of the reward is enough, okay? So game developers will do this, right? They'll exploit this, like the streak rewards, the bonuses that'll be hidden throughout the game. They will weight these toward the early stages, and then they'll make them less frequent as the game progresses. Because what they're ultimately aiming after is to get us to move this trigger from external to internal, so that the mere thought of the next level or the next thing is enough to get us to take the action to go back to it. You've all had this before. This is why our cell phones are so good at what they do. I wonder if I got an email. I wonder. I bet probably. I need to check it. Now, it hasn't buzzed or dinged or anything. But yeah. Okay, so that's moving that trigger internal, just the mere thought of it. And what's happening is triggering the dopamine response is the anticipation. And you've all had this, like, oh, please let there be an email. Why do we even care? But, oh, there's none. So, but enough, oh, think about it again. So they know how to move this internal. All right? So this is all about, we'll get to this, it's about keeping your eyeballs. It's about capturing your attention. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Also want to talk about one of the ways that social media especially keeps us engaged. So I would just have you, if I didn't want you not to do this actually, but to take Facebook out and scroll to the bottom. Do you think you'd ever get there? Do you think that's an accident of the design, or is that intentional in the design?
Intentional.
Absolutely. It's absolutely intentional. It's called the infinite scroll, right? That's a part of its design. Why are they doing this? Because they know they are eliminating the stopping cues. We all need stopping cues, all right? So in a book, there are typical stopping cues. What would be a typical stopping cue in a book?
In the chapter.
End of the chapter. Sometimes in the chapter you might get breaks, like they'll give an extra space or something, or a heading or something of that nature. For me, if I'm reading a book and I don't finish the chapter, I always stop on the top left first paragraph on the page. So I know when I open my book, that's where I stop. Okay, that's what I do. Now, so that's a stopping cue. In traditional television production media, if you watch a show, what's the stopping cue for a half-hour show? The credits at the end. When the credits come on, you know, stopping cue. I can hit power off, or if I want, I can go to the next show. I can wait and watch them. Okay, there's a stopping cue. The stopping cues give you an opportunity to think, do I want to continue? But if you take away all the stopping cues, it removes that little opportunity to reflect and say, do I want to continue or not? And the removal of stopping cues, it really messes with our brains, okay? Because we all have an innate desire to reach the end, all right? To discover the bottom, to find a good stopping point, right? So if you're mowing your lawn, I'm pretty sure, unless there's some emergency, you don't just mow a couple little strips on it and just go inside and just leave half of the front yard just completely unmowed. You'd find that very unsatisfying, wouldn't you? That's just, now, I know there are reasons why that may happen, but you wouldn't freely just say, I'm just going to mow this half and just be done. It's not complete, all right? So this is one of the reasons why social media always leaves us unfulfilled, because we never have a feeling of completion, ever. It never lets us feel like we finished something. That's very upsetting to the human brain, all right? Now, digital games will function similarly. Because anymore, you never actually win the game, all right? I mean, you advance levels, you improve your status, you accrue more points, but you are never actually done. And that's by design, because it keeps us engaged, and then it maximizes their profits. And there are many parents who feel like they've lost their kids in the game. Because it's all about this. It's about engagement. So engagement, that's code for clicks and shares and retweets. What engagement means is eyeballs, your eyeballs. And eyeballs can be monetized. That's what we're talking about. So this also goes for all the talking heads on TV, on social media, I mean on YouTube and sort of things, talking heads. All these algorithms that drive what you see on social media, it's all driven by this. It's all about how many eyeballs for how long that we can monetize for how much. That's what it's about. I use the word engagement, but it's about monetizing eyeballs. And there are lots of different ways you can do that. A lot of it has to do with extreme content, right? I mean, like careful, nuanced, thoughtful reporting. That does not really get eyeballs. But like histrionic, over the top, hyperbolic, panicking, the sky is falling, that gets eyeballs. And that can be monetized, right? And you need to know that you are not viewed as a person. That's not what they call you. They call you a user. Users. And the thing that drug dealers know about users is that the more addictive their drug, the more promising their drug, the more powerful the addiction, and the easier it is to manipulate people. People like you. Samuel James writes the book Digital Liturgies, and it's a fantastic book. I'd recommend it. But he says, the social internet is designed for one purpose: to keep us scrolling, to keep us posting, keep us hooked. Negative emotions, feelings of anger, frustration, or disagreement, are to social media scrolling what coal is to the steam locomotive. Yes,
Can you tell me that reference again?
yeah, sure. I'll have it up on the screen in a minute, but it's
Okay.
called Digital Liturgies, and that's by Samuel James.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for asking. And don't hesitate to stop me, because once this train gets going. Yes, please.
I'm reading a book right now called Careless People,
Okay.
and it's about an executive in Facebook when it first started.
Mhm.
And she kind of talks about the workings of the people who are there
Mhm.
and their motives,
Mhm.
and how they over time start to realize all this stuff, and
Mhm.
you're just out to monetize it. And it's just a really in-depth look at that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. And the more you study about people who kind of are on the front end of this, who've kind of gotten out of it,
Yeah.
that they're repulsed by what
Yeah.
they've created,
Mhm.
right? They see, and
Yeah.
they know the inner workings of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's about monetizing. We now live in what's called an attention economy. Okay? There's another book I'm going to recommend. I'll put it up on the screen in a minute, by Justin Earley, Earley, called The Common Rule: Habits of Purpose for an Age of Distraction. Very thoughtful book. He says this: attention is our precious commodity. Our life is defined by what we pay attention to. Our phones are carefully designed to attract our attention and sell it to advertisers. So look, if you could think about, we all think about going through our house like, oh, that's a grandfather clock from my great-grandfather. That's very valuable. True. Oh, I have my retirement account. That's very precious to me. True. I have these pictures on the wall, very precious to me. True. Those are all things that are valuable to you. You need to think about your attention as one of those valuable things that should be precious to you. Who are you going to give that to? Right? And that's what they're after. They want your attention because they want to sell it. Okay, anytime you have a free product like Google, do you know who the thing being sold is? It's you. I'm not saying Google's necessarily evil. Don't use Google. It's not my point. But understand, you are the product they're selling. Your attention. All right? And we'll get to later about how maybe that's affecting us. But please, pay attention. Pay attention to who you give this to, please.
What was that quote that the author had?
Yes, so I'll read them again. Attention is our precious commodity. Our life is defined by what we pay attention to. Our phones are carefully designed to attract our attention and sell it to advertisers. That's Justin Earley in his book, The Common Rule. And what you all need to realize, YouTube is an example. I just read in the Wall Street Journal that YouTube, this is worldwide, but something like 1 billion hours of YouTube are watched every day worldwide. It was like, I had to read it multiple times. This is unbelievable. And YouTube now makes up the largest number of, actually they're taking over TV viewership, YouTube is. But it was only like 12 or 13% of global usage. So if you got 1 billion hours for just that, and I imagine you add the rest in, how do we have time for anything else in the world? I mean, so anyway, YouTube has a supercomputer pointed at your brain. You just have to know that. And they have a supercomputer pointed at your brain. And one author writes that 70% of YouTube's traffic is now driven by recommendations, so algorithms. So algorithms are the thing that basically are tracking what you like and continuing to feed it to you. And what we know about YouTube is this: it will continue to feed you content and even move that content toward more extremes. Okay? It will move. So if you show an interest in the moon landing, you're going to start to get videos on conspiracy. If you are a teenage girl and you show an interest in teenage girl stuff, you're probably going to start to get videos on that would lean toward, drive you toward anorexia type stuff. Okay, but it won't be labeled that. If you show any sort of interest in mental health or mental illness, you're going to start being shown all kinds of themed videos in that way. And we'll go into a little more of that a little bit later. But you are not freely choosing what you're watching. You think you are. But the algorithms are saying, you like this, you'll like this, you'll like this. You may think, oh, that's a nice feature. But you are not as free as you think you are. Okay, and that's by design. Now I want to talk a little bit about gaming. I was at Hobby Lobby a while back, and I just took a picture of the different signs in the gaming section. If you can't see them, I'll read them to you. Top left says, "You talking to me?" Headphones on. This one here, this is pretty sad. I have a dream that one day my parents will understand that video games cannot be paused, or online games cannot be paused. I don't quit, I restart. I like to party, and by party I mean stay inside and play video games. I find that to be very depressing. Very depressing. Just 5 more minutes. Oh, you've heard that before.
It's very tall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, unless you hear it a million times, right? This one, warning, may yell at video games. And this one down here, this one really breaks my heart. Gamer, noun, a person who realized that real life is too boring. Real life is too boring. Life in 3 dimensions is too boring. Okay, it's because of the dopamine response. It's because the promise of reward is just around the next corner. It's in the next room. It's in the next level. It's in the, so it's dopamine extremism right there. And it definitely two-dimensionalizes a person's world. And in many ways, it shrinks our world down to like plastic or metal rectangle. That's a pretty small world. But I want to say a word about gaming. Gaming largely appeals to boys. Girls play it too, but largely to boys. Social media probably more. What the trends show is, if you had the stereotype, gaming more appeals to boys, social media more to girls. But it's not a hard and fast thing. But I do want to say something about the gaming. Okay. Now we are seeing some reaction against this in our culture. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse, where they go with it. But masculinity has been greatly maligned in our culture, okay? Now there's a negative way people have responded to that with going to extremes. But, so one of a masculine desire oftentimes is to conquer, to protect, to defend, to overcome, these sorts of things, okay, to sacrifice. Many times for boys, the point of the game isn't really about the killing. There is that in the games, and that is enough for us to be concerned. And there is graphic content, more than many parents probably realize. Even graphic sexual content in a lot of these games, more than most parents probably realize. And there is a concern about their ability to play these online games with anybody around the world. And we know that one of them, the main place that groomers locate children is online, and a lot of it through gaming. Human trafficking happens in Iowa at alarming rates. They're not snatching them from Casey's. They're meeting them on the games. So, Jonathan Haidt writes the book, The Anxious Generation, yes. And maybe you've seen this, and he talks about how mom thinks because son or daughter's in the next room at home, he or she is safe. When the child is meeting with people online, that are grooming them. Okay, so, but I do want to say, with boys, because the culture has maligned them so much and their masculine desires, they are going into a world where those desires are being rewarded. They're able to overcome, they're able to triumph, they're able to gain victory, they're able to do these things. Now, we as the church need to learn how to direct those desires into the right place where a boy becomes a man, becomes a father, a husband who will die for his family daily, right? Giving up his desires for the well-being of them, exercising controlled strength and seeking to conquer sin, right? That is how we should be funneling that. But I just want us to understand one of the reasons why it appeals so much to our boys is because it allows them to express some of those masculine desires that our culture is saying you're bad for having those. All right, so we demonize that as a culture, and then game makers know it. They're like, this is innate in boys, so we can gain their eyeballs and monetize it, so they know it. But I think it's important for us to recognize that.
So you shared a stat about the YouTube item. I read an article, I think it was last week. It was an organization that fights human trafficking. And
Yes.
They were saying one new video game, I'm assuming it was like a war Call of Duty type
Yep.
of thing, it was an online game. That one brand new game in this last year of 2024 had, if you tally all the billions of hours from users, it was like over 2 million years worth of time spent on it.
Amen. Yeah.
But they compared that to how many predators were on the other end of that,
Uh-huh.
and how that equates to trafficking, and it's scary.
It should be very sobering, right? Right. According to different studies, that it says the average young person will spend approximately 10,000 hours playing video games before he turns 21. Now, it takes 4,800 hours to get a bachelor's degree.
Say that again. 20.
It takes 4,800 hours to get a 4,800 to get a bachelor's degree. Most of our young people, averaging, will spend at least 10,000 hours playing video games before 21.
PhD?
You can have a PhD.
2 of them.
Right, exactly. So what I want us to understand is think about the opportunity costs here. Because really, at the end of the day, so we were having this conversation on confirmation a while back where the kids was telling me about whatever level he was on, whatever game, and all the, I don't know what it's like diamonds or coins, or whatever the prize was for the different levels. And I said, can I have some of them? He's like, yeah, sure. I said, well, can you bring them to confirmation next week? I want to have them. He goes, I can't. I said, where are they? Well, they're nowhere. They don't exist in any sort of three-dimensional way. So you would hate to get to the end of your life and have ultimately pixels that, again, it will stimulate your dopamine response. And I'm not saying that video games are inherently evil. Now, there are video games, like I said, with content that we should not be engaging in. But a video game in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you got to understand that the power of the thing you're dealing with, all right, and its ability to drive addiction and drive desire and to fracture families, you got to know what you're dealing with and be very sober about that. Okay, we can't have our heads in the sand, please.
Is there any current, you would be more aware than I would, there's a real big problem with sort of extended adolescence with young men that persist in gaming communities and gaming activities, even into their 30s now, sort of is there any, obviously this affects relationships, marriages, children and family, anxieties and all those things, but I am unaware of a study or a person that's engaging with that in particular. So it's not just with the younger kids that are under 21, but I'm 43, and when I was at college, the first wave of Xbox Halo online users were coming through, and I remember how crushing that was, to the relationships and images of.
It's definitely prolonged adolescence, but it's more of a prolonged immaturity.
Okay.
What I will say, and we'll get into some of the brain science in a little bit. I'm not able to grab a book reference off the top of my head. I know I've read exactly what you're talking about, but I don't have a ready reference to an author or a speaker right now. But you're spot on. That's exactly what we're observing. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, you can see it. It's
Absolutely,
obvious,
yeah.
really clear. I don't know if anybody's
Right.
like.
Yeah.
Pushing
So
that.
I know, like, for example, Jean Twenge is a researcher. She's written on it. Jonathan Haig's son has written on it. But Jean Twenge talks about what she called it, like iGen, iGeneration, and she writes about that. But specifically studying young men. I don't have a book off the top of my head, but I have read about it.
Yeah, thank you.
But you're right. You're spot on. I'm just going to touch on this briefly. I am starting to see some pushback in our schools on screens in schools, and I'm glad for that. I will tell you that young people view that size screen as entertainment devices. That's what they are to them, and they're very good at figuring out how to get around whatever safeguards adults put on it. I'm talking to some confirmation kids last year, and they were making a list, and I was like, "What are you writing?" Oh, these are all the sites and the games we can get to that are going to go around the firewall of our Chromebooks. And then they trade that like currency, right? I mean, so, and then the distraction reality, if I see this in pastors' conferences, I try not to sit in the back because there are too many guys with their phones out and their laptops out who are just scrolling Facebook. And here's the problem. If there's a moving screen to my right, what do you think I'm going to look at? Even if I don't want to. Because it's just like that present that's sitting there wrapped. I want to know what's in it. So what's the next image? What's the next image? I'm distracted by it. So this is a downstream distraction. In other words, we have an item that's causing distraction in the room itself, all right? This is what's sometimes called as the secondhand smoke of screens in the classroom, right? If someone's smoking in the room, there's a cloud that's causing a vision impairment. Same thing there. And there are multiple studies on this. They actually did a study in a college classroom. They had the kids in the front of the room having no devices, kids in the middle having devices, and the kids in the back having no devices. Who do you think had the best scores when it came to retention? The ones in the front. Okay, but the kids in the back had they had no items. So they would do just as well the kids in the front, right? No, because they were distracted by the kids in the middle who had devices out. Okay, so having those in the room. There's also studies showing there's an upstream distraction. It takes something like 5 to 15 minutes before a child can forget or get their mind off of the phone in their locker. So even having the phone between classes still takes several minutes for them to get back online with what's going on in the classroom. Because they're still thinking about that upsetting text or that snap or that whatever that they were dealing with in the hallway, all right? Also, we know that the digital medium actually changes the way we read. So there's a woman named Marianne Wolf. She writes the book Reader Come Home, The Reading Brain in the Digital World. She's not Christian, but she's a researcher. She says, skimming is the new normal in our digital reading. Skimming. Then, she says this is profound. Human beings need a sense of the pathway, a knowledge of where they are in time and space, that when needed allows them to return to things over and over again and learn from them. Something referred to as the technology of recurrence. So the words need to exist in the three-dimensional world. And when they go off screen, they cease to exist. She quotes a researcher who says, the digital page is fake. It's not really there. So, for example, if you're reading a book, you turn the page, and you're like, oh, I want to check back on what I read. You know it's physically there. Turn back. When you scroll up or whatever sideways, where do those words go? They're gone, right? You've all read a book and remembered something you've read that was on this side of the page, about right here. Your brain needs a sense of the pathway. It needs to locate it in space. And it's a different kind of reading that takes place when we read it on paper than it is on a screen. It doesn't mean screens don't have a place. It does mean it changes the way we interact with the information and our retention of it in major ways. All right, I'm going to skip multitasking, and I'll tell you this: multitasking is a myth. You cannot multitask, just like you cannot watch the football game and talk to your wife. You can't do it. All right, you can multi-switch, but you can't multitask. Now you can put laundry in and then go wash the dishes. That's different. You can't attend to two different things at the same time. People think they can attend to their cell phone and their homework. Can't do it. Can't do it. It's a myth. And the research bears that out. I do want to talk about this. This is fascinating. Okay. Synaptic pruning. We're not talking about bushes. We're talking about our brain now. Okay, I'm going to give you some numbers here that are mind-blowing. A baby is born with 100 billion neurons in their brain. 100 billion. These have to be connected in networks, which the brain starts doing right away. And these connections peak between the ages of 2 and 3 at nearly, get this, 15,000 neural connections per neuron. Yeah, I'm not good at math. I can tell you that's a big number, okay? So that gives the child's brain this astonishing power and potential for learning. Just astonishing. So as the young brain becomes gradually more orderly and efficient and fine-tuned as it matures, now, it's not going to reach maturity. Sorry, young men, you won't reach maturity until close to age 30. And young women, it'll be in their early to mid-20s. Just, did you know that men and women's brains are actually different? Right? They're actually different. I think that's a whole other side story. But they're different. They mature at different rates. All right? Now, in order to get to maturity, here's what's going to happen. The brain actually prunes the neurons that are not being used. Cuts them off. Then it myelinates, so you can think of this sort of insulating sheath, kind of like putting down a highway, kind of like going from gravel to concrete or pavement. It'll put this myelination on it, and there's neural pathways that are being used. So this is critical for the brain's ability to develop these higher level cognitive skills like problem solving, executive function, emotional regulation, these sorts of things. But here's the reality. This is a use it or lose it scenario. Right? This is happening in the brain. So here's the thing with social media and gaming. These things are designed to be brain dead easy. They do not require higher level cognitive skills. So what's happening to young people's brains is the neural pathways that are responsible for real world problem solving, executive function, emotional regulation, they're actually being pruned. All right? We may not like to hear this, but social media and gaming are physically changing our young people's brains. All right? And not for the better. And there are several studies that have borne this out. All right? So I won't go into all the studies, but it is changing the brain. I remember having this conversation with our second son a couple, 3 years ago now. I was telling him why he would not have a phone in his bedroom, why that was not going to happen, and why you're not going to have these sort of media devices in your bedroom. And I was explaining all the pruning. I was like, I'm going to tell you about the pruning bit. Here's what's going to happen in your brain. And I said, your brain's just going to cut off those parts that you're going to need, and you're going to be left, just having the whole thing. And I went on for a while. And when he finished, he said, Dad, I want you to know something. I think you're a psycho dad. And then he said, but in a good way. It's fine by me. I will also say this, keep these screens away from babies. Marion Wolf calls the iPad the new pacifier. Okay? There are more and more studies that are showing the lasting negative cognitive effects from early and prolonged exposure to screens. And it's not just the screen, okay? It's the changed environment. The child isn't engaging in the three-dimensional world, not interacting with parents and people. So it's cutting them off from the three-dimensional environment. Marianne Wolf says this: many young viewers are all too quickly and literally and cognitively left to their own devices, to be continuously entertained by a very flat thing which possesses neither the lap nor the voice of their most beloved person reading and speaking just to them. The iPad is not a pacifier. It is not a pacifier. You cannot use it like that. So I'll make one other reference here. I'm going to skip these. This is a wonderful book to read, to refocus what you're supposed to be doing as parents. This is not a book to be like, the nuts and bolts of the specifics day in, day out. But this is a book that does a great job of focusing on what it means to be a parent and why you should be prioritizing the parent-child relationship even over the peer-peer relationship. Long and short of it is this. Peer-peer relationships are inherently unstable. They're unstable. They can't assume them. Okay, kids in school, you know how this goes. We're friends today, tomorrow, we're not. Okay? And because those relationships are inherently unstable, you live in a constant state of uncertainty of whether that relationship, you're always trying to impress or to maintain or to secure or a rival trying to steal. Okay, parents are going to be assumed. So you're going to be the floor that your kids put their feet on every morning when they get up. And parents need to prioritize that parent-child relationship and the family unit over the peer-peer relationship. And he gives all the data in the book. Leonard Sachs has multiple books. They're all worth reading. He's a strong Christian man. He's got, you can listen to him online. He's got different podcasts that he's on. So well worth the time to read Leonard Sachs's book. I've appreciated his work. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're at the end of session number 1. And we're going to do this for just a few minutes and then let's get a drink, go to the bathroom, and we'll get back. I call this What's Your One Thing? Okay, so here's how this works. If you have a question, you certainly can ask a question. But I want to know, so far, one thing that you heard that resonated with you that you can take home with you. So someone tell me one thing. Please.
One of the last things you talked about is the pruning.
It's sobering, isn't it? It's sobering. It's sobering. Now, the young person's brain is what they call plastic, which means if you make a course correction, you can see improvement. Okay? It gets harder when we get older. We get less plastic. We get more calcified. But, and I would say this social media thing is just as big as a trap for our older generation. Like, my parents and my grandparents are all gone, but especially the older boomers. Okay, it is. It's a trap. I've watched many people in your age category get sucked in and don't know how to get out. They didn't even know they're sucked in. So, okay, anybody else? One thing, please.
I think for us, it's just hearing some of this stuff reinforces a lot of the choices we've made with our boys and not giving them access to that stuff. And it's hard.
Yes, it is.
But
it's, you're the weird parent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they feel it too at school when
Yes,
they're the
they
only
do.
kids that don't have a phone or they don't go home and game after school and
Yep.
but
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Please.
I feel like for me, it's like what you said about the gaming thing, how like a lot of people are being like online and stuff, and a lot of them are getting sucked into like these traps with people across the country or whatever, far away, and like they get sucked in, they can't.
Right.
They're getting
Absolutely.
like, I guess, controlled in land by the other person. And they're, like,
Well
not
said.
careful about what they do.
That's exactly right, because you have people who are intentionally trying to manipulate them. Yes, please.
I think it's just the sheer number, the volume of time that is invested into online gaming, or are there statistics for social media too, like the endless scrolling, the doom scrolling,
Yes,
the amount of
yes,
time people
yeah.
just then flipping through
I
Facebook.
skipped over it. It's something like getting close to like 9 hours a day in front of the screen.
Yeah.
Not all of social media, but
When I do marital counseling, a lot of times, one of the first questions I ask is, between the couple, how much time does each couple in a self-assessment spend, scrolling Facebook or doing social media stuff? And the assessments are usually between like 4 to 8 hours of individual time. And, I say, well, what if you just took 30 minutes out of that and just tried to connect to your spouse instead of, just sitting next to them, scrolling something.
Right.
And it's a devastating proposal
Oh, I've
For a
seen it.
lot of
I know what
people.
you're exactly right. That book, The Common Rule by James Early, or Justin Early, he talks about tech fasts, tech Sabbath, and about needing to basically tame our devices and curate. In other words, he sets a limit of how much media he can watch in a week, right? So if he knows he has 3 hours in a week, he's going to be more careful about what he chooses to watch. He's going to curate it. So we have to govern them, or they will govern us. Did you ever hear that? Please.
So like, I just came home from a week at Cape Anasika,
Uh-huh.
and all the people there were basically just like super excited to get home and play Roblox.
Does that just depress you? It does me. Our youngest son, who's 9, was in a piano recital here a few months ago, and they had all the kids lined up in the front seats, waiting to go take their turn and play their 30 seconds of whatever up front. And there was a little boy sitting next to my 9-year-old, I think he was 11, and he was talking to our son Isaiah and saying, what's your favorite TV program? My son's like, well, we don't have a TV. He's like, what? And it's a warning. Our TV, we actually got, it was in the attic for 10 years. We thought, why are we keeping this? So it's actually gone now. But anyways, we have no TV. Now, because we don't have a screen, I can talk more about that later. We intentionally choose when to pull the screen down and what we're going to watch. But then the boy went on a little later and he's like, oh man, my favorite video game is this and that, whatever. And he says to Isaiah, what's your favorite video game? He goes, I think I've only played one video game in my life. And he's like, what? I can't imagine life without no video games. And Isaiah says, I can't imagine dedicating my life to a video game. Way to go, man. 9 years old, you nailed it, right? Because I can tell you that 9-year-old has never been born. Right? Now, I'll tell you this, it'll make your house messy. You're ready and loud. Yes, then here. So here first.
People do not know how to communicate anymore.
We don't know how to look people in the eye, do we? Here.
At a restaurant and people are sitting there texting on their phone instead of talking.
You're exactly right. You're spot on. Yes.
I was going to say, when you made the comment about the Chromebook and your confirmation kids and the tips they were giving each other, Evan says, I would never write that down.
Yeah. You don't want to write it down because then, exactly. You'd be more secretive.
Critical things.
Yes.
There's an account on Instagram, and the guy's a counselor at a school, and his posts that he makes are about ways that he's finding kids are using like Google Docs or whatever to communicate things that are readily available in school, but the way that kids are using them to bypass it.
They know how to. These kids are smart.
So he's trying to educate parents on what the kids are doing that are.
Absolutely. One more, and I'll take us.
At 10,000 hours before the age.
That blew your mind.
It's 416 days.
The opportunity cost there is the opportunity to volunteer, to learn an instrument, to learn a valuable life skill, to learn how to bake, to learn how to do any of these things, right? I'll tell you how I think we just went over the crazy cliff here recently in our house. Just so you realize, I'm telling you, we are full more crazy in our house. We just got our own grain mill. Oh, this is exciting stuff. Like this was a big celebration. So, and this is a family affair, right? We're going to grind it and we're going to resource it. So anyway, exciting. That's how far crazy we are. But it's in 3 dimensions. Okay, my son, who's 13, bakes sourdough multiple times a week. Loves it. All right, so take about 5 minutes now I mean 5 minutes. I have a lot of content, but I also know your bottoms need to move. So take 5 minutes. We'll come back and get started with the next session. All right? Take 5 minutes.
Hey, how are you? Good. I'm going to say hi real quick. Sorry I wasn't here when
That's okay. You were getting one of the children.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Good.
But
Yeah.
this all week he's done a really good job of we were supposed to be time. Today I'm like, he's not there. I got to go find him.
Well, you got it. That's just fine.
This is my daughter Charlotte.
Hi,
How's it
Charlotte.
going?
Nice to meet you. Very good. How old are you? That's right, 14. That's right. All right, well, that's fair. You want to see your points?
This is the driving birthday. Yes, I know.
We're doing the parent list. Barbara's up with our daughter. You haven't cracked the job with night hours.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she'll do good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She does drive around out here, so that's good.
That's good. That's how you start, right? Yeah.
I'm sure. This is my youngest, Claire.
Yeah, there's two older there.
Good. But you're no longer. No. That's right.
She's very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. Good for you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go see if I can find him again. We'll be back.
All right, very good. Thanks. Yep.
We're talking about the young kids not needing to see. First thing is, they're still in the yard. They got a kid in there that's sick or something, the first thing you do is bring up an iPad so they can sit there and watch their little cartoons and stuff, it's like, until you said it, I guess I really didn't even. Yeah, it's just. I work on the permanent. You see it, and yeah, it's like, yeah, you just don't realize it.
I'm sun-kissed.
Yeah, we'll call it that.
And
I read it all.
Well, and I keep telling the boys, they ask every now and then. They know, like, why. And we remind them, like, your friends. Go down in the ocean right they'll treat for you and all of that stuff. Like, they don't know how to do all that stuff. Because they don't. It's like,
your phone is on, you're always I'm gonna run and go find her.
All right. Okay, you got 1 minute. I'm gonna keep you moving. That's right. I got a lot to cram in, and I want to make sure we have a chance to move a little bit.
yeah, one of the things we were experiencing was they were previously riding a school bus, like a shuttle from where we drop off. Well, yeah, because then again, they're the only ones that don't have the devices, but they're sitting in seats, and you're saying how, you see it, so you can't help, and they can't help but sit and watch what their friends are, and nobody's talking and stuff. No, that was one of our, we got to we had other issues on the bus, aside from the devices, but that was one of the things where, like, we just quit letting them ride the shuttle and just made the adjustments in our schedule. Yes.
We tried to ask them something and they would.
Yeah. Because they're sucked into that phone. They can't.
Sometimes their friends are.
Yep.
They're hypnotized by it. Exactly right. Okay, I'm ready to hop back in. And we're going to be asking this question. We've already talked a little bit about it. We're going to go in a little more detail about how screens are affecting us. So this has been a couple of years ago now. The Wall Street Journal has done some exposés on Twitter, Facebook, these sort of social media giants. And I'm just going to share some of the headlines from Wall Street Journal and then a few quotes from them. But Instagram serves up toxic video mix. The rise of artificial intelligence is causing the decline of truth. And I'll simply say this as an aside. I've finalized an entire presentation on AI and the church that I just shared with my circuit here earlier in the week. So that will soon be promoted through LFS. So that's a whole nother question. I'm going to make reference to it in a little bit, but I have a full 2.5-hour presentation just on AI. So, side question. 14-year-old showed Meta how toxic Instagram can be. So, quoting from the Wall Street Journal from the top headline. The journal sought to determine what Instagram's Reels algorithm would recommend to test accounts set up to follow only young gymnasts, cheerleaders, and other teen and preteen influences active on the platform. Instagram's system served jarring doses of salacious content to those test accounts. And I am going to not quote the rest when it goes in to describe what it shared to these test accounts that were they created fake accounts under the name of like a 13-year-old girl. Okay? So they register a 13-year-old girl who has interest in the things 13-year-old girls have interest in. All right? And what Instagram put in front of these girls, these bots, were very salacious, just graphic. All right? Going on. Suit alleges Meta, that's the parent company of Facebook, aided predators. Meta is struggling to boot pedophiles off its platforms. It's only struggling because it's not trying. At least according to the reports I'm reading. Because that means because to do that would require dramatically changing their algorithm to the point that they would lose revenue. Okay? Instagram points young teens to sexual videos, tests show. Quoting from the top one, an account for Issa Bees, this is the name, they created Issa as the name of this 13-year-old girl, for which investigators posted photos purporting to be a 13-year-old girl from Albuquerque, New Mexico, attracted thousands of adult followers who deluged her with both invitations to join private chat groups, and I'm just going to summarize, and other, I hesitate to call this adult content. I would like to call it immature content, okay? Inappropriate content. And it goes on to detail the sorts of pictures that were shared with this bot, this 13-year-old girl. I would prefer not to say it out loud right now. Now, moving on to AI briefly. This is most recent in the Wall Street Journal. Can you really have a romantic relationship with AI? There are people who are doing this. AI makes learning easy, maybe too easy. What the data is showing is it will give you the answer, but you won't learn. And AI tells you only what you want to hear. So there's a new word for this called AI sycophancy. That's basically where AI is basically going to tell you you're the smartest thing on the planet. All right, it's an echo chamber that's designed to affirm you. So that's a whole other presentation. But, okay, AI is impacting the way we learn or don't learn. It's impacting our idea of what a relationship should be, and people's interactions with AI in sexually explicit ways is skyrocketing. This is becoming pornography on steroids. I won't go into details, but this is becoming, the power of this drug should terrify you. Now, I'm not saying AI is evil. The whole presentation on AI, well, it's a very nuanced presentation asking when and how can we bring wisdom to bear. This is one way it can be utilized in the evil way. Okay, so that is one way. When it's used in the explicit way, it is the potential for addiction is astronomical. Okay, so and this is happening. It's changing us. All right, so how are screens affecting us? They're fracturing families, and here's how. It is removing, so I don't know if this is a real word or a word we made up. It eliminates a family's what we call familect. So family dialect, a familect. A familect would be a shared language, inside jokes, funny stories, shared experiences where you have a certain catchphrase that you'll use that is sort of shorthand for the larger thing, right? And because we're all in front of our individualized screens, we're not able to share those experiences. Now, I mentioned earlier that we don't have a TV, but we do have a screen. Actually, we have one up on the ceiling we pull down, which we use for specific things that we choose, that we want to watch as a we. So we have another screen pull out of we have two screens, one that's hanging from the wall, one that's tucked behind the couch. We pull out if we want to watch a family movie. So I'm not saying there isn't a place for screens or family movies. One of the things we watch as part of our normal day is World Watch. World Watch is from World News Group. They produce World Magazine, which is like Time Magazine, but from an explicitly Christian perspective. They produce a podcast called The World and Everything in It, which is a 30-minute news podcast, Monday through Friday. News from a Christian perspective. And then they have World Watch, which is the 10-minute video production of the news, which is specifically designed for families from a Christian perspective. So we subscribe to that, and we will pull that thing down, we plop a projector on our table. It takes work and time to set it up, and that's on purpose. It needs to, because it has to be a conscious choice that we are going to do this. I highly recommend the World News Group products as helping to inculcate the Christian worldview in the home. They're very good for that. But my point here is not that screens just in general are bad. My point is the shared screen experience can be a part of building the family. You watch a movie together. We watch the news program together and we talk about it. Okay? But if everybody is on their individualized screen, are we able to have that meaningful conversation? No, because nobody even knows about it, right? Nobody knows. So you're basically isolated to your screen. Now you're probably having a conversation with someone else online about it, but not your family. So you lose that family dialect. One researcher points out that with screen time, when the screen is on in the family, it reduces talk time between parent and child by 85%. That's a big reduction of talk time. Justin Earley writes in The Common Rule, we don't mean to live lives of absence, but without meaningful habits of resistance, smartphones are impossible not to look at. If we do nothing, we're sure to live a life of fractured presence. These things have to be governed. They're too powerful, all right? They're too powerful. We have to govern them. You may have to come up with creative ways to do this, but you have to understand that the ability to resist the little vibration in our pocket, or even the thought of something, or not to be like, I'm going to check this thing quick online, and realize 15 minutes later, you are still scrolling. Right? You've all had that experience. I've had that experience. Right? I hate it. Like, it got me again. Right? And what I hate about Facebook is no matter how many times you tell it, stop putting those reels there. I don't want to see those. The next time you're on there they are. And they know he's a 47-year-old male. We know what he wants to see. I don't like that. Oh, if their account's registered an 18-year-old male, what do you think they're going to put in front of them? Is it too hard to think about? Right? Who among us has the willpower to resist that? It's hard. Right? Now, women, you have your own pitfalls and traps that you get sucked into. And then you're done, you're like, I feel shame because I got duped again. All right? So we have got to manage these things, or they will manage us, and they will fracture our family. Other things to be aware of. It distorts reality. Oh, man. You will see highly edited photos and videos, and here's what happens. Oh, look, they're on vacation in Italy. Oh, look, their child just won the spelling bee. Oh, look, they just won the soccer championship. Oh, look what they're getting to do. And what happens is you start to stitch this all together in your brain. Everybody else is living the dream life. They're having, everything is awesome in their life. And look, that is the perfect mom. She's figured out how to work 80 hours a week and still mill her own bread and have the perfect...
She did it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But that's what our brains will start to think. She has figured out how to do it all, right? And I can't find my sandal, right? I've lost it. My kids are out front wrestling in the mud, right? I can't get it. We're eating TV dinner tonight, right? Because I forgot to get food. You know how this goes. You have stitched something together that's not true from highly edited photos and videos that also aren't true. That have had all the filters put on it, and they spent hours curating to make the perfect whatever, and you have stitched it together, and you're like, I'm not that. And this is, women, you're especially vulnerable to this. You're not the good mom. Right? 'Cause mom guilt's a thing. Mom guilt is real. And social media, man, it has the corner on exploiting mom guilt. Okay? It distorts reality in some very subtle and powerful ways. Now I'm going to buzz through a couple more things and talk about other sources of media. TV. So I mentioned that the mediums we interact with, the media we interact with, changes the way we see the world, okay? It teaches us something about the world. So you can ask the question, what does TV teach us about the world? And I was like, well, TV is even hard to figure out what TV is anymore because YouTube's overtaken TV, and the smart TV, there's no line between internet and TV anymore. Nonetheless, TV teaches you that the world is fast. It's about surface appearances, that everything in the world is happening at once. Okay? That's the perception you get, that everything is happening at once. Well, does everything really happen in 30 minutes to an hour? That's actually not how the world works. When we have curated it down for a 30-minute program, it will look that way, but that's not true to reality. Okay? Neil Postman, who wrote the book Amusing Ourselves to Death back in the 90s, before the internet, he was talking about the TV culture. He called it the now this world. This is like the evening news, okay? Breaking news from the other side of town. There's been a break-in at such and such factory, and there's still the criminals at large. Now this, expect to have cloudy skies tomorrow and a chance of rain. Now this, the local football team has done this, okay? So it's a very disjointed now this, now this, now this. And it leaves you the impression that everything happened like right here. And then guess what? In your life, it's not the way life works. So it's like, well, my life's not that. That changes your expectations for the world. X, Twitter, all right? Here's what Twitter teaches you. Number one, you shouldn't focus on any one thing for too long. The world should be interpreted and confidently understood very quickly. What matters is whether people immediately agree with you and applaud your short, simple, speedy statement. Now, is that really true? Is that the way reality is? Right? No. Is that a healthy way to process reality?
No.
Not at all. That is a way to encourage to think with your emotions, but it's not a way to encourage you to bring wisdom to bear. Justin Earley writes in The Common Rule. He's talking about where he had his psychological crash. Now he had to discover a different way to live. He says, I hungrily scrolled Twitter and news alerts. This became my new morning routine, and it solidified a new identity. I am the righteous judge who gets it, and nobody else gets it. That's what Peter's teaching you. You are the judge of all these other people, and you're the only one who gets it. That's probably not a healthy way to move through the world, is it? A side note here, so just early we'll talk a little bit about this, and I've built on it. He talks about that scrolling through X, and he talks about he would do that first thing in the morning. He'd check email, scroll social media, see what was going on, right? And he finally realized he was allowing the world too much say in his mind. So one of the things I try to teach people is this. One of the things you can do to counteract this, it's going to be hard, but you can do it. I call it word before world, and the regular return. Word before world is you are going to give special attention to your waking moments. Okay? You are not going to turn the TV on first. You are not going to check your email first. You're not going to scroll social media first. You are going to discipline yourself that in your waking moments, you are going to set apart 3 to 5 minutes. Now, if you have more time, because seasons of life change, if you have more time, go for more time. But 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to choose a book of the Bible to read through. Okay, I'm in Proverbs right now. You're going to read it for 3 to 5 minutes. If you don't finish the whole chapter, that's okay. Read 3 to 5 minutes. Somewhere in the middle of your day, you're going to read the same text again, the same one. And somewhere before bed, you'll read the same text again. That's the regular return. So word before world, the regular return. The regular return is what the Bible calls meditating on the word. Psalm 1, right? Blessed is the man who meditates on the law, right? Day and night. Well, how do you do that? All right, you read Psalm 1, you're like, oh, that sounds great. He sits in the corner doing this. That is not what it's talking about. It's talking about chewing on it all day long. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, I have to give an hour a day. No, you don't. I mean, if you have that time, great, go for it. But I'm looking at realism, like in living in reality, and you have busy lives, 9 to 15 minutes over the course of your entire day. First thing in the morning, sometime in the middle, sometime at the end. You do that for years. Do you think it will shape your mind? Shake your head, yes. Okay? That's how we counteract so much of the world. In a very simple way, and the point here you have to understand about this, it is not about the one time. It is about as many times as you can do it successively over the course of your life. Okay? Doing that for years, word before world, the regular return, it will shape you. All right. Facebook. Facebook teaches you this. Your life exists to be displayed to other people, and you should be aiming every day to show your friends edited highlights of your life. What matters is whether people immediately like these edited and carefully selected highlights that you spend your life crafting. Somebody is your friend if you regularly look at their edited highlight reels and they look at yours. That's what friendship means. Is that true? It's just laughable. It's just laughable. But we get sucked into this. Okay? This is what it teaches you about how the world is. It changes the way you see the world. All right? So that's what I'm talking about. Every tool changes the way you see the world. Trains changed the way we saw the world. It expedited the adoption of the time zones that we have. All right? Microwaves have changed the way we see the world. Air conditioning has changed the way we see the world. All right? I'm not saying these things are good or bad. The point is they're just not neutral. We have to be sober about them, all right? I mean, Facebook has just eviscerated the word friend. Because here's the thing. Nobody can have 200 friends. Nobody. 1 or 2 true friends is possible. That's reality. Okay? Instagram. Okay, Instagram, here's what Instagram says. What matters is how you look on the outside. What matters is how you look on the outside. And what matters is how you look on the outside. And what matters is whether other people like how you look on the outside. Now, is that a healthy way to process reality? Not at all. Now, what do books teach us? We're not even discussing the content of books at this point, okay? Books will teach you that life is complex. If you want to understand it, you have to set aside a fair bit of time to think deeply about it. There is value in leaving behind your other concerns and narrowing down your attention to one thing, sentence after sentence, page after page. And it's worth thinking deeply about how other people live and how their minds work. So there's some wonderful quotes. So John Donne writes in the 1500s, "As the devotion of life, the way of words, of knowing and loving words, is a way to the essence of things, and to the essence of knowing too. What is required for a loving is a knowing. For a knowing that is loving is the quiet eye." And that's a complex quote, but I want to get after is the idea of the quiet eye. Wordsworth picked up on this, wrote a little poem. "In common things that round us lie, some random truths he can impart, the harvest of a quiet eye." The idea of the quiet eye. The point is, it takes cognitive patience to know something. Reading develops cognitive patience. It requires it too. Marianne Wolf writes, "Reading is a special place in which human beings are freed from themselves to pass over to others, and in so doing, learn what it means to be another person with aspirations, doubts, and emotions that they might never have known." And she adds, "For a moment in time, we leave ourselves, and when we return, sometimes expanded and strengthened, we are changed both intellectually and emotionally. And sometimes we experience what life has not allowed us." So Emily Dickinson writes a famous poem. She writes, "There is no frigate like a book." Frigate, a ship. Okay, no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any courses like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse may the poorest take, so even the poorest person can go on this trip, without a press of toll, so no toll booth. How frugal is the chariot that bears the human soul. Our point is, reading allows even the poorest person to experience distant lands and ideas and people that they wouldn't be able to experience otherwise. So, Psalm 1, talking about the blessed man, his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. The quiet eye, cognitive patience. That's hard. I will tell you, if you have any sort of propensity towards those screens and have felt them claim your time, the quiet eye is going to be one of the hardest things for you to develop. Because we do not live in a culture of a quiet eye. We need to know it right now. I will tell you, AI will exacerbate that. Because AI will tell you right now. You won't have to think. You won't have to think. They've done studies on this already. Kids who just use Google versus just AI, think about it. I mean, Google itself shortens the process, but AI speeds it up so much more. On Google, you have to go like 10 different pages and synthesize the information. AI just spits it all out right here. Does all the synthesizing for you. The retention is just evaporating completely. The quiet eye. Okay, a couple books I mentioned. Amusing Ourselves to Death, really a formative book, really thoughtful book from the 90s, and Digital Liturgies I've mentioned, most recent here in the last couple of years. So, things I want to share here. Samuel James writes this, just reinforcing what I've said before. Rather than being a neutral tool, the internet, particularly the social internet, is an epistemological environment. Okay, big fancy word. Epistemological means the way we know things. It has to do with knowing. So it's an environment that affects the way we know things, is what he's saying. A spiritual and intellectual habitat that creates in its members particular ways of thinking, feeling, and believing. Then he writes, the disembodied, fragmented nature of the internet is not merely a quirk, but a fundamental part of the web's nature, and thus part of the story it tells. The digital liturgies, and he uses that word on purpose, you think of liturgies in worship, they're liturgies on the internet. The liturgies of the web and social media train us to invest ultimate authority in our own stories and experiences as they separate us from the objective givenness of the embodied world. Okay? It's teaching us to see reality in a disembodied way. All right? The habitat itself of the social internet tells us a story that humans are not essentially people with flesh and blood, voices, and facial expressions, but users whom we can sufficiently know from their words, profile pictures, and shares. We've reduced people from their embodiment to these two-dimensional, pixelated things. All right? Going on. Screens actually change the way we tell truth. So this image over here is a classic painting by Vermeer, the girl with the pearl earrings. You'll see it lots of different places. It's famous. This was created by AI. Okay? So, but images, well, for example, if I ask you, is this image, or even that one, are these images true? Now, you're going to have a hard time answering that question because it doesn't really make sense. Because we don't use the words truth and falsehood with images. Now, it may be to the point where it's like, well, yes, Vermeer painted this, and no, he did not do this. True, false that way. But images live more in the realm of aesthetics of like and dislike. Okay, in other words, you might, if I say to you, do you like this painting? You could say why you liked it or not, or what emotions it evoked in you, or what questions you raised, like who is the girl, what's her story, what's her name. Okay, it'll evoke those sorts of things, but truth and falsehood are not things associated with images. Okay, now, take that then to an image-saturated medium. Facebook, Instagram, so forth. These are image-saturated mediums. So, what does Facebook give you for emoticons? Not true and false. What? Thumbs up, thumbs down, and a whole range of other emoticons. You're giving an emotional reaction to it. We're not even taught to interact in the realm of true and false. All right? So, music actually works this way a little bit too. So, I'll offer this to you. Pick your favorite song from your childhood, or even I'll do this with great caution, or go to the Billboard Top 100 and go to the top 10, and just pick one of the top 5 songs, and just print off the lyrics. All right? And chances are, your kids may or may not know the song, but I bet if you go to the school, you're going to find kids who know those songs, who probably can sing them mostly by memory. Print the lyrics, sit down at the supper table, and just read them. Probably most of those songs you're not going to get through the whole song because you're like, oh, we're done. Right? And chances are probably maybe even some of the songs from your childhood, which you sang at the top of your lungs, if you were to print the lyrics and just say, I'm going to read these lyrics to you, my children. You'd be, oh, we're done. Not doing that. Why? Because here's the thing. Music and images actually enter your mind through a different door than the one labeled truth. Right? They come through aesthetics or feelings or emotivism. They come through a different door. Let me give you another image. Let's pretend you have a teenage daughter, and this really sharp-looking sports car drives up on your driveway with tinted windows, and your daughter runs out and says, oh, that's my ride. You can't see who's in it. It's a really nice car. Do you let your daughter get in? What do you want to know? What's your question? What's the first question? Who's in the, if it's your brother who just bought a nice sports car, okay, yeah, you can go for a ride with your uncle. Cool. I don't think it was wise for him to buy that car, whatever, but fine. But okay, you want to know who's in it. So here's the thing. Images and music, they have a passenger inside named worldview. All right? They have a passenger inside named worldview, or a driver, I should say. Don't you want to know who that driver is? The problem is because we are not thinking in terms of truth and false. In other words, what truth claim is this image making? What truth claim is this song making? We're not thinking that way. We're just thinking, it makes me feel good. That's what we're thinking. I like it. Then we're not evaluating who's driving the car. And it's basically saying, yeah, sweetheart, go ahead. It's a really nice car. Doesn't matter who's driving it. It's a great song. It just makes you feel great. Just go ahead and sing it. Who cares what the words are? They're wonderful, and the images make you feel really alive. Who cares what they're trying to do to you? Yes?
I remember when you're talking about this, I remember an experience that I had when I was in senior high youth at my congregation, the congregation that I attended in Texas. And we had very eager youth leaders that were trying to, establish the youth program, and they thought having a movie night together would be an excellent event, and they picked a movie that was very nostalgic to all of them, and they picked Grease.
Oh man! Yeah.
And we thought, we were like, this is weird, this is corny, and then when they got into the actual show tunes of Grease,
I know
they were all painted white, like my mother included, like this nostalgic film that was a hallmark of their childhood. And when we were sitting there listening to this, like all of us, we were all like 9th grade, 10th grade, we were like, did they just say that? Like we were like, we were watching this a youth group, we were like, oh, like we were like blushing.
Yeah,
and they were freaking out, like trying to stop the VHS.
Stop this thing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So that's exactly my point. You're spot on, right? Because it was a great story, we totally missed some of the deeper message that's actually going on. And then you have your eyes open and you're like, oh, the truth claims being made in here are not good.
You
Okay?
hear that with like a lot of cartoons and stuff anymore. Like there's subliminal things that like to entertain the parents at the same time that the kids, it would be over their head, but
right.
it's inappropriate for them, but they don't get it.
Right.
Parents do. And
Yeah, so this is all about tuning into the truth claims being made in the visual medium or the odd thing with music. The aesthetics of it are appealing to your emotions, and it's basically disarming you from being able to think in terms of truth. So you just have to be smarter, wiser than that, not smarter. Biblical wisdom needs to be brought to bear. Now, my comment briefly on AI. Okay, AI is going to make us question what we can trust, right? This is a classic one, the Pope in a puffer jacket. That particular Pope never wore a puffer jacket, but someone used AI. This is the Abraham Lincoln checking his texts. Okay, good, you understand. Elvis Presley playing basketball. Now, you'll notice he has about 8 fingers right here, so AI has to get a little bit better. But with the potential, and part of my AI presentation talks about this, with the potential for image cloning and now voice cloning. I cloned myself, voice cloned myself recently. I can make myself say whatever I want to say without actually saying it. I could share examples with you. The AI is incredibly powerful. Are there potential good uses for it? Absolutely. And in my presentation I give separate from this, I talk about that. But I want to tell you the potential to be deceived is just exponentially greater. Like the old days where someone would call Grandma and be like, Grandma, I'm in a prison in Mexico. Well, you don't sound like myself. I have a cold, Grandma. Now, all they need is a 10-second audio clip of the person, and they can voice clone them, make them say whatever they want to say. So they can call you and they can have the voice of your child or your grandchild. You will struggle to know the difference. And the video technology is almost there where you'll be able to video clone someone and make the video say whatever you want to say. And so the deception level, so going back to the 3-dimensional thing, what we're doing in the church and gathering together in 3 dimensions on a regular basis is going to become all the more valuable in an age that is completely two-dimensional in nature, disembodied in nature, and now undercutting truth in amazing and disturbing ways. To the point now where not only can you make a person say whatever you want them to say, but that person now will be able to deny everything because they can say that was a clone. Knowing what is true is going to get a lot harder. A lot harder. So like this is the aftershave moment where you just shaved and you slapped it on there and you're just going, yes, it's going to get a lot harder. I mentioned this briefly earlier. Okay, so I want you to imagine having a conversation with Abraham Lincoln or Albert Einstein or even Julia Roberts, at least a virtual version of them. Or you can create your best friend who's available 24/7, and you can engage in hours of deep conversations. Character AI will do that for you, okay? According to its website, you can engage with super intelligent chatbots that hear you, understand you, and remember you. Pretty big promise, isn't it? That's what they're claiming. According to a 2024 Harvard study, 21% of American adults report feeling lonely nearly all the time. That's going to make for millions of lonely people who might turn to these friend bots for social connection. What we're discovering is, in the end, they are actually more lonely. Actually, bizarre conversation I had on the phone a few days ago. A woman called, not a member of our church, but connected to the family of the church. She wanted help from me to find a three-dimensional person she could talk to because she was tired of talking to chatbots. All right?
I recently, within last 3 months, listened to a program on the radio that's on every local station in Des Moines. Talking about this, where it was I don't remember if it was a guy or a gal, but let's say in late teens, early 20s, that was chatting, and whatever the character AI, I think I suppose it was that, but anyway, long story short, he was depressed or was getting depressed, or she, like I said, I don't remember.
Yep.
But this AI character that listens to you and knows you ended up basically telling that person to end their life, and
Yep.
they did.
Yep, I remember that it was a middle teen boy who fell in love with this AI bot.
That's it.
Yep,
That's
yep,
it.
yep. And this mom is suing now.
Yes, that's it.
You're going to see a lot of lawsuits. A lot of lawsuits. Yes. So there was an entire special report in the Wall Street Journal on June 30th. It had a whole insert on this very question. And not just that, but I mentioned earlier the erotic uses that are this is being used for.
I think that's where
he
went down that road with it.
This is
The extortion and stuff with the young boys and
this is porn on heroin.
Well, we've even became aware recently of, parents who are sharing photos of their kids, and those faces get grabbed, and they can be through AI.
They can be put on.
Yes, and there can be videos or whatever put out there, and that can ruin lives. Not only just the content of the video, but then we know that lives forever, and the impact downstream that could have.
And our laws are struggling to catch up.
Yeah.
Because they've put the face on the false body, and the law is they're trying to get around the law saying, that's not their body. I haven't shared an inappropriate image of that person's body, just their face. So the laws are having to catch up, and they will. But right now the potential here for evil has just gotten.
And I think that suggestion by AI, just blow your thought, that's reality in schools. Like that happens all the time. I subbed into school for a year, and that was kind of like the advice kids would give each other
Yeah, I
Just
know.
like, yeah, you should probably go get a haircut, or you should probably go kill yourself. I mean, it was kind of the same.
Yeah, that's how inconsequential it was.
Yeah.
to them.
Do you think that's related to the disembodiment that
Oh, yeah.
is going on?
Yeah.
That because they don't see people as actual people with souls,
Yeah,
that this
yeah.
it's so easy to give that flip statement
Right.
to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nor do they even fully understand what death is.
Yeah.
I mean, because this young boy actually thought that he was going to join. The idea was like the chat line said, like, come join me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. And then, you know, when you mix this with all the transhumanist movement, the transhumanist movement is this idea that we're actually going to be able either to meld our bodies with tech or upload our brains to the computer. Yes.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
you're good. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think this has been really popularized too in some of my reading is the simulation theories
Mm-hmm.
about existence.
Mhm.
You know that the claim of the AI is the underlying claim of AI is that reality is simulated.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have a grounding in a created order.
Right.
And so the promotion to join the AI, I actually been reading this,
Uh-huh.
is that its underlying theological claim is that it's the creator of the universe and the world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's making this promise of eternal life. And so it jumps into this claim with these people. Like, if you end your life in
Right.
the simulation, it actually doesn't end. It just joins with this new...
This is a sci-fi Matrix
It's
type stuff.
really crazy. It's not even the Matrix anymore, where you wake up from a false reality
Right.
To join the real world. It's that you just sort of drift into the ether of
Right.
whatever this AI claim is. It's a completely bizarre notion.
Well, but you're right. There are spiritual implications. For
Yeah,
this.
massive, because it's a claim. The AI, whatever the AI is claiming to be the source or the location of existence, and so like it's a really scary,
it's
devastating claim.
alluring too, because AI is always available and super powerful.
Yes, and I don't know. You would know this more than me. There's historically too. There's of course a psychological piece that a lot of people go through where they believe that their existence is sort of already unreal. That there's some that are a character, larger thing that's that their life is on display. That normally happens like in your early teens. That you think that your life is you're performing for a stage, and it actually feeds off of that already sort of natural psychological development piece that anyway.
The adolescent
Yeah,
stuff.
the adolescent.
Oh, you're spot on. You're spot on. I
So-
mean, like the treating AI as a little g god or even demonic stuff. This is real. This is happening, right? So that's my whole other presentation. But you're exactly right. I mean, a lot of people are. So I was listening to a podcast on the way over, and I forget that the author who was being quoted. But someone had asked this author, "Is there a God?" He said, "No, but we're creating him."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, think about it. AI is available everywhere. AI has the appearance of omniscience, right? Right? So, okay, in the name of time, I have to keep going. But how are screens affecting us? And theological geeks will get this. The Latin phrase, incurvatus in se, means curved inward on ourselves. Now, this is speaking more morally and ethically, but I actually was talking to a nurse at our hospital who was saying they're seeing more and more physical spine curvature deformities in young people because they literally have spent so much time like this. Yeah, the tech neck, exactly. So Jean Twenge writes about this in her book, I, Jen, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, basically what we see is that there is an impossible to miss correlation, some will argue causation, between the rise of mental health crisis in our young people and the adoption of social media usage. Now what I'm going to do next, I've got a variety of charts. We're not going to spend a long time on charts. I'm going to flash them on the screen. If you really want to look at a chart geek, I'll get you the resources. But for time purpose, I'm going to skim through it. But I want to show you this. It's right about 2012-ish, right in this range, where smartphones are owned by over 50% of the U.S. population. Okay, I think Facebook comes on the scene about 2007, somewhere in that range. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, what I'm trying to see is this line here shows where we see the tipping point with smartphone ownership in America with over 50% ownership, and then you just track the mental health lines as you can actually overlay the adoption of the smartphone in American culture, and they track on pretty closely. So undergraduates diagnosed with a mental illness, I mean, just, I don't know if you can see it, just anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, these are some pretty big increases. U.S. teens admitted to hospitals for non-fatal self-harm. Again, that's where smartphones reached the 50%. You can see, significant increases. Ages 10 to 14 even increases. And what this largely reflects is that social media is largely adopted by our girls. There's a book called Irreversible Damage, Irreversible. It's by Abigail Schreier. Irreversible. I think they call it Irreversible. Anyway, she tracks especially social media's influence on girls. Okay, suicides. You see some significant increase there, and then ages 10 to 14, even elevated suicide in that age category. And then this shows depressive symptoms. Okay, so females. So right here is 2010, and right in here we get that 50% crossing of the culture for the smartphone, and depressive symptoms skyrocketing. Okay, so I'm not going to go into great detail on the charts, but I just want you to see when we start talking about the negative impact on mental health. I mean, it's documented. Jean Twenge documents it. Jonathan Haidt documents it. It's kind of hard, and this too actually is behind this. Haidt and Twenge. His name is spelled H-A-I-D-T. It's pronounced Haidt. It's not H-A-T-E. So, and Jonathan Haidt is an atheist. Right, and I'll have more to say about that later. But so, anyway, I'm going to skip over a couple things. Number one, it's stealing our sleep. Okay, it's stealing our sleep. Two, there's something called TikTok brain, where it reinforces illusions about mental illness. In other words, if it's taking Dr. Google to a new level, so we're self-diagnosing, and then now we're starting to see mimicry happen with what gets fed to young people. They start to mimic the mental illness that they have, because mental illnesses are trendy today. I don't mean to speak disparagingly of mental illness. They're real. I'm not saying they're not real at all. I'm saying they're trendy, and you can just watch this online. It's trendy, and so we have this fear of what's called normophobia. In other words, being normal is no longer okay. You have to have something. It's either going to be a mental illness or it's going to be LGBT. It's going to be, that's how you're going to be special, okay? And TikTok is exacerbating that. Screens are destroying our ability to have imagination. So let me read a couple quotes from, first from Marianne Wolf, who writes Read or Come Home. I worry very much about the cognitive development trajectories of children who are so constantly stimulated and virtually entertained that they rarely want to go off screen to discover their own ability to entertain themselves with their own created hideaways, preferably outside, where tangled bushes and sticks become Martian land, where a tablecloth over a low-hanging tree branch becomes an Iroquois tent, where their imaginations become immersed in what they are doing, and dinner is served too soon. All right? Another quote, this is from Screen School, the book called Screen School. Rather than play in a world constructed by their own minds, worlds in which they're cops and robbers, doctors and patients, princesses and aliens, or whatever they like to be, kids today play mostly in worlds created by others in the form of video games or other media content. Make sure you heard that. Somebody else creates the world. Somebody else is choosing their world. Make-believe is a mentally rigorous exercise that helps a child develop critical thought and creativity. The kids are systematically replacing this important form of play with games created by the minds of others. It destroys imagination. Just destroys it. It just, we have a made up word in our family, we call it squanching. It's when you get kind of, like they squanch you down. Your idea is not valuable. So we often talk about, don't squanch. Don't squanch your sister. Don't squanch your brother. Let them have their idea. Let them have that moment. Don't squanch. This squanches imagination. How are screens affecting us? Justin Earley writes in The Common Rule, the more I use social media, the more I realize that the great danger is not in simply overusing social media. It is in living through social media. The problem is not so much the way it wastes time, it is the way it frames time. Without limits, we begin to see our whole life through it. We see our whole day through a possible post. We look around, wondering what in our field of view is worth taking a picture of. We listen to every conversation for a tweetable quote, instead of trying to understand the human being who is talking. We avoid disagreement in public, yet we express our most ardent emotions in carefully crafted Facebook replies of all caps tweets. We start to see the world through this rectangle. This is the way we see the world. And this is a very small world. I'm only going to touch briefly on this, but this is a real part of social media and the online world. In fact, last time I checked this, that 4 out of the top 20 searched websites in the world are porn sites. Okay? And it's not just that kids or adults are searching for porn, it's that porn is searching for you. Okay? I will just say, they tag this onto everything. Now, I'm going to talk more about this in a little bit. We talk about parental controls, and I simply want us to understand, safe things don't need parental controls. These media companies are always going to be like, oh, we've got parental control, we've got parental control, we've got parental control. It's like, oh, that makes me feel safe. Safe things don't need parental controls. Okay? You don't have parental controls on the books on your shelf, right? These are books, you know what's there, your kids can read these books, all right? And we're outsourcing content filtering to third parties. Do we trust them? All right? All right. So we'll do our one thing, take a 5-minute break, and come back and finish her up. Okay, someone tell me one thing.
Safe things don't need parental control.
Safe things don't need parental controls. Right? Someone else, one thing.
I wasn't here for most of it, but
Okay.
one thing I can think of with the Facebook and all that, it doesn't, I did catch the first part of it, is it doesn't matter what others think, it's more what you think of yourself. And that's what's important, you know, in those that you're around, your family.
Right, right. But Facebook tells us we have to depend upon what?
Yep.
The thumbs up or thumbs down. Yes, please.
The digital world is really becoming our world.
Yeah. Our world is getting very small and very flat. Yes.
So you mentioned like earlier, really early on in this part of the presentation, social media, especially things like Instagram, you said, is like pulling people towards inappropriate content. And it's like the companies making that, they don't really give a crap if you're a person that want to have a healthy life or not, they just want money.
They want to monetize your eyeballs. That's what it's about. You're exactly right. Yes, please.
So you mentioned earlier how they like have like redefined friendships and stuff.
Yeah. They've gutted friendship. Friends, you really can only have 1 or 2 true friends. Nobody has 2 true friends. Yes, please.
No, I was just brightly married.
Oh, very good.
Is there a term? Say a question. I mean, what happened to Mr. Rogers' neighborhood? First of all,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mr. Rogers was in my head about, some of the imagination. Yeah.
Creativity and stuff. I mean, I grew up with Mr. Rogers.
Right, yeah.
Probably most people in this room.
And he was a Presbyterian minister.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the man had an explicit Christian worldview, and he was trying to filter that into the production. Listen to some of his speeches. The man was very intentional about what he was doing.
When he went, I think it was in '69, he went before Congress trying to get funding for PBS, which PBS, I think back then is a totally different
Different
than
animal.
today.
Yep.
But, and he got it.
Yep.
But my question, I guess, is there going to be a boiling over point? Or do you see a boiling over point where we go, all right, let's reset this?
I think we're seeing some of it. I think, and I think we're seeing it especially in sexualizing of children, and like the T part of the LGBT. I think you're having a lot of detransitioners who are realizing they've been duped, they've been lied to. And a lot of it's been fed by social media. And the more I hear from young people, especially the next generation younger than me and beyond, but especially those who are trying to raise kids now, that are Gen X, probably, that's where I am, probably got duped by this. And a lot of us didn't understand the negative potential for some of this tech. I think some of the younger generations who were raised on it realized, I don't want to do this to my kids. So there are some who are starting to react against it. I'm not saying we're anywhere near to a sizable minority even, but I do hear people expressing great dissatisfaction with what the media is doing to them, their phones and everything else. So you have people starting what's called like the analog movement, very much a reaction against it. So I think there is some acknowledgement. Now, I'm not saying you have to throw all your tech out. That's not even my message. But you have to bring wisdom to bear on what this is, and we have to be able to govern these things, or they will govern us. Yeah. Anybody else? One thing?
I'm
Okay,
weirded
please.
out by that character AI thing.
You should be.
And how they're absconding. I was just thinking when he said Mr. Rogers, who's going to take Mr. Rogers' voice and have him say all sorts of weird crap and post it like it's the truth? That's creeping me out.
Well, here, let me, I'll see if I can pull it up quick, because I want you to understand just how well they can clone voices and so forth. Let's see if I can find it. Not that one. I'm not as tech savvy in this. Oh, here. Okay. Now, you will recognize this particular voice. I will spoil the surprise by telling you in advance that I did this with AI. Okay? So, see if you can hear it.
Friends, this is your lovable, cuddly favorite president, Donald Trump. I've just discovered the greatest podcast on the internet, Issues, etc. It's amazing. Fantastic guests, brilliant host, best producer. Listen to Chris Rosebrough, Brian Wolfmueller, Keith Curtis, Will Whedon, Jonathan Connor, Mark and Molly Hemingway. These people are making podcasts great again. You're going to love it. IssuesETC.org.
That's wild.
He didn't say that. I just put the script in. All right? You can pick from thousands of names online of people you want to use their voice to say whatever you want them to say. You can clone your own voice. Yes.
You're combining that with like the imagery. You can make fake photos of someone saying something really bad.
Whatever you want. Whatever you want. It's exactly right. The question of what is true is becoming more relevant today than ever. And the level of distrust is skyrocketing. All right, so as a side note, then we'll take our break. This is why in our efforts to communicate the Christian faith to the next generation, it can't just be communicated in propositional truths. We are going to have to habit it into our lives, because what young people are going to look for is this person living this thing? Is it making a genuine impact in their happiness, in their joy, in their ability to function, in the way they move through the world? Are they living it? That's what truth will be to them. It has made a positive difference in that person's life, and I can see it. So we have to build the habits in. We'll talk about some of those habits in a little bit. But build those intentional habits into our living. That will be the most powerful witness that we have going forward. Is building it intentionally into our living. All right, take 5 minutes, and only 5 minutes, and we'll get going. I'll finish it up. We're going to talk about what we should do.
You can ruin somebody's life who's very your age, who are looking for.
It is an infinite, unlimited 4 hours.
It was good. You getting along? Not causing any problems, are you? It's been nice though.
Yes.
I know. They started raining through this morning and it stopped. The wind is I was actually seeing full water right now. I bet it is. That could be a project.
That's what I had gotten one from
Well, I get the chain man.
on my shoulder. Yeah, put a shirt on. It's like you gotta pull. That's how I feel right now. I was actually thinking, I think the last time I had never been a walk. Oh yeah, 2019. But it was shorter, and it's been growing since then.
I just do.
Yeah, you periodically chop it. Yeah. Yeah. How you feeling?
Good.
Yeah, this is very good.
Make it on the better restricted. I was diving at the camp and I hit the upside. I just hit it again. And I hit the upside.
Ouch. Better than your nose.
I hit my nose.
My tooth on the edge. I was in middle school, swim team, and I was frustrated when I like hit right into the wall. My tooth. That's now, I think over the years, it's just going down.
I don't want to do
Yeah.
I'm actually not it's not.
Oh,
I did that right before I got ready to leave. I got in a balloon and then you're never gonna have time.
back to what I would do. But I don't think about this. They have a girl, but it's Did you play it?
I do. It's incredibly powerful.
You're exactly right. We're there with you. I get it. Okay, 1 minute. We're going to get started and finish up. 1 minute.
Boys.
You already have the piano, so you've got that. You boys are doing a good job.
Absolutely. It's a long time to sit. I know.
We've got 1 more hour. We're done. We're done. Whole hour.
How long if I need that done?
We're done. We've been here for 2 whole hours. Did you know that?
It goes fast on here.
Yeah, you're paying attention. That's how you do it.
How long have we been here?
That's right. How about that?
But those math classes, like, it's only been 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, we're going to finish it up. This will be our last session, and you can stop listening to me. How about that? All right, so here's what we're going to talk about. What should we do? Well, I'm going to talk about how we focus on the unpixelated three-dimensional life. And I think we're going to need to talk a little bit about screen limits. All right? Samuel James writes, "Pixels are not created in God's image. People are. It is a holy thing to be with another human being." That's an important image to get.
Who wrote that?
Samuel James in Digital Liturgies. Right. So, you get to decide as a parent for your kids and for yourself, or just as an individual, what you want this to look like. But I would want to put huge limits on these things. I'm going to talk about some of the ways to do that. My kids have heard this from their dad many times. I will often come in the room and say, "Hey kids, I have a couple of things I want to share with you." And they say, "We know, Dad. Don't live with your boyfriend or girlfriend and no social media." It's like, good, then I'm done here. All right, so, you got it, right? So if there's any social media, it is going to be at the laptop to look for, oh, there's no cross country tomorrow, because that's where you're going to find this stuff. So I understand that in some ways it's, in our world, it's currently impossible to be completely separate from it, because this is the way a lot of the world communicates. Oh, let's check and see, oh, the town's holding that festival. Okay, so yes. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm saying it's very difficult to have no interaction with it. But I would want to say, and I'll talk about phones that allow you not to have this stuff on the phones in just a minute. But you can decide what things you want to fight, but you need to come up with your way to limit screen time in your home. Okay. Okay. Justin Early writes this in The Common Rule. "Daily immersion in the scriptures resists the anxiety of emails, the anger of news, and the envy of social media. Instead, it forms us daily in our true identity as children of the King, dearly loved." I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. That's a very good insight. He says, "Limits are where freedom is found." I always tell my kids, freedom requires a fence. The image I always give them is at our preschool, we have a fence around the play yard. Within that fence, those kids are free. If you take that fence down, those kids are vulnerable. Same thing with rules of the road when you're driving. The rules of the road make it possible for you to drive freely. If you take away all the rules of the road, you wouldn't give your teenager the keys. You would not be free. Same thing with our beloved sports. The rules make the game possible to be played. If you take away all the rules, it's chaos. Freedom requires a fence. So limiting, he says, limits are where freedom is found. We don't need unlimited choices. That actually limits our ability to choose well. We need a limit on our choices, which actually empowers us to choose well. He says limiting screens will force us to curate content. Resisting the constant stream of addictive media with an hour limit means we are forced to curate what we watch. So he sets up, he has like 3 or 4 hours that he sets up as his limit for the week of media consumption. So he knows he has that long. So he is going to curate what he watches. He's going to be intentional. It's going to be worth his time. All right? You've all had that moment in the food line where you're like, is that dessert worth it or not? I can't tell. Is that good? Is that dark chocolate or milk chocolate? Is that a raisin or a chocolate chip? And you get it and you're biting like, oh, it's totally not worth my calories, right? All right, so you need to curate your media. Another fantastic book, not written from a Christian, but if you've never seen Atomic Habits, he understands human nature and he's really good at what he writes. This is a very thoughtful book. So habits aren't just the things we do, they are things that do things to us. Habits function like compound interest. They accrue over time. James Clear, who writes Atomic Habits, he writes this: your outcomes are a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging measure of your learning habits. Your culture is a lagging measure of your cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. Right? He says if you want to predict where you'll end up in life, all you have to do is follow the curve of tiny gains or tiny losses and see how your daily choices will compound 10 or 20 years down the line. All right? So, what's this mean? And it means this. This comes from Digital Liturgies. In our context, it means you are what you scroll. You are what you scroll. All right? That's so important. All right? So we need to give serious thought to our habits. Our habits. This is why earlier when I said word before world in the regular return, I'm aiming after a habit. And I'm going to talk more about habits to inculcate into your life, into your family's lives. I mentioned these books. I'm just put up on the screen again. You Are What You Love by James Smith. He writes, you are a liturgical creature. Okay? So that's just important to understand. Worship, he talks about, is the arena in which God recalibrates our hearts, reforms our desires, and rehabilitates our love. Worship isn't just something we do, it is where God does something to us. All right? Remember Pastor Johnson's quote. All right? It does something to us. This is a habit. We need to make it a habit that we repeat and repeat and repeat because it is going to shape us. And that three-dimensional interaction every week will help us in our battle against flattening our life into the two dimensions. All right? I mentioned this book, The Common Rule. You can't believe truth without practicing truth and vice versa. You can't just give it a mental nod. You have to practice it. I don't know how else to put this. You have to do it. You have to practice it. If you just nod, it's not believing it. I mean, I can tell you I believe I'm a basketball player, but I haven't touched a basketball for a long time. I'm probably not a basketball player, right? All right, it takes doing it. Believing has to translate into doing, and the doing will actually reinforce the believing. This has to happen in the home. It has to happen in the home. I'm going to talk about how to do that in a minute. These are some resources available to you. I did say that safe things don't need parental controls. Doesn't mean parental controls are bad, but these are parental controls that are an option. Firewalla is very simple. It plugs in between your modem and what's coming in, and it basically allows you to filter out a lot of the content you don't want coming into your house. We have Firewalla. My son helped me set it up because I wasn't smart enough. But it was easy. It really wasn't that hard. And now I can manage the content that's allowed into the internet of our home through my phone, through Firewalla. Other ones, Covenant Eyes and Canopy, other options. Now I want to highlight this guy here, Pinwheel. I'm glad to see that companies are finally starting to make these sort of products. Our daughter, who is 15, who is actually on her way to the National Youth Gathering right now in New Orleans, she has a Pinwheel phone. A Pinwheel phone is a smartphone, but it does not allow social media. There is no internet browser allowed on the phone. It does not allow people to text her unless I have first approved who is texting her, And every text conversation that goes to her phone goes through my phone, and I can pull up the app on my phone and see who's talking to my phone and who's talking to my daughter and what they're saying. Now you say, well, that must mean you don't trust your daughter. Well, two things. Number one, that's not really the issue. I don't trust other people. That's who I don't trust. But number two, that's actually not the way the trust highway works in parenting. She's supposed to trust me. She's 15. Of course I don't trust her. I love her. She's a smart kid. I don't have reason not to trust her. She's 15. You were 15 once, but you trust you? All right, I think I made my point, right? That's the way the trust highway works. It's a one-way highway. She trusts me. That's her job. Trust me. All right, you're 15. You got it. All right, good. You're probably a smart man, but you're 15. And there's no insult to any 15-year-old here or anybody who's a kid. The reality is, your prefrontal cortex, my kids hear about this all the time, your prefrontal cortex, which is your discernment center, the brakes of your brain, they're not working all the way yet. Now, the rest of it's functional like a Ferrari. But the brakes aren't fully formed. I said, no, I don't trust you. Yeah,
well, I think there's also something you mentioned earlier that's good about that, which is that as a man, at least part of the way I see my job is that there should be a serious threat from anybody outside of my home that I will scold them.
Yeah.
Very,
yes,
like quickly
yes,
if they
yes.
do anything to my family or children.
That's right.
And so I really appreciate that things are sorted through my eyes because I want my daughter to at least be able to communicate to somebody like, oh, my dad will kill you.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of land in Iowa that bodies can be found.
Can be hidden. Right, exactly.
Which is a serious threat. I mean, you know,
right.
Like it's an important threat.
That's our call, right? Yes, exactly. No, you're spot on, and that's really important to appreciate. What we're trying to do is protect our children because look, this thing is a portal not only to the world, but from the world to the person who has it. All right? There is a reason. I mean, I know in rural Iowa, maybe it's not as big of a deal, but we do lock our doors sometimes, right? I mean, okay, this is a way of locking the door of access to your children's life. Okay, it's a reasonable thing to do. So, now you'll pay more for this, and there have been times when it's clunky, when I'm trying to be like, okay, I have to approve so-and-so, so that they can text you, okay, how do I do this? And I actually want that. I actually want it not to be so intuitive that I can do it mindlessly. I want to have to think through it. I want there to be extra steps involved to protect me from being lazy. Because I'm just as lazy as the next person, right? So I'm glad this has come online. And so it's a smartphone. It allows us to do Live 360 on it, so I know where I can figure out where they are in New Orleans now if I want to, right? And she can communicate with her grandparents and certain friends she can communicate with, and that's fine, but she can't get on the internet. There are certain apps that can be approved by me, but she just can't go browse YouTube. Can't do it. So I'm glad this has come online. It'll cost you more. Yes, please.
Does it, like, for baseball, they have to have an app called SportsU? Can you approve apps?
Yes, so how that works, so same thing, my daughter, there's like, yes, it requires more steps.
Okay.
Like each individual person who's on that has to be approved. If there's, so let's say there's a group text coming through and one person is not approved by you, nothing gets through. So I understand it's going to create some clunkiness. You may have to go to the coach and say, hey, you're going to text my child directly, or you're going to whatever. And so, yes, it will make your life more difficult in some ways, but for me, that's a price I'm willing to pay. So, or you're just going to text me, coach. You may have to send out 2 texts, your big group text and this, because this is what we're doing. So those are so just be prepared for that. Now, what else can we do, should we do? I want to talk about your living space. Okay. How we order our space affects how we order our relationships. So I want you to consider for a moment your living room, your family room, whatever you call it, the main area where people would gather to socialize, okay? Now, if you're a typical American home, what is most often nowadays, they're mounted on the wall. What will the furniture be directed toward?
TV.
The TV. Exactly. TVs are not evil, but what tends to be our default when we sit down on the couch? Right? It is reflexive. You don't even know you've done it, right? It's like you're driving on the highway, you're like, I close the garage door? Of course you do. You close it every time. You don't even know you've done it. It's just reflexive. Hit the button, right? What you need to do with your TV, a couple things. Like I mentioned, our TV's gone. We have not missed our TV once. Has it made it harder for us to watch certain things? Yes. It's exactly what I want. But let's say you're not as extreme as me, which is fine because very few people are as weird as I am. And I own that. Do some things. Take the batteries out of the remote. Put the batteries in the office in the drawer. Why? Because you will have to get up and go get them, and you'll have to choose. We default toward the lazy. And if you sit down and there are no batteries in the remote, chances are it's on. You won't turn it on. And then you may find yourself having a conversation with your family. Or unplug the TV. You know how hard it is to plug in? Yes, I do. Or put a wall hanging in front of it. Drape something over it. Develop some sort of cabinet system where you close it in. Or just literally get rid of it. But whatever you do, give thought to the way you organize that space. What is going to be the default? Is it going to be the screen? Now look, like I said, it's okay to have a communal screen where you all choose to watch something intentionally. We're going to watch this program. That's fine, but you're going to choose that. You want to avoid the default. The default, because remember when screens go on, conversation between parents and family, just individuals, goes down by 85%. Like, don't we want to prioritize those conversations, those interactions? So in that living space, have books, have games, have activities. It will be messy. Your room will not look like what used to be the magazines. Now it's social media, whatever. It won't look like that. It's going to be messy. You have to be able to accept that. Because what is it you're trying to prioritize? What do you want to happen in that room? Do you want people just hypnotized? You know, I often think that our living spaces with our mounted TV screen probably look a lot like the high places mentioned in the Bible. The high place was they had an idol, and it was up high. And in our houses, what's up high is our idol. And don't you dare try to take it away from me. Right? All right. So I would say give serious thought. So just ask these questions. What do I want to prioritize? What do I want my family to be like? What do I want to happen in this place? Do we want the default to be the easy button, a boop on, we're all hypnotized, we're mindless blobs sitting here, not talking, just existing and mostly drooling and making obnoxious noises every now and then? No, of course not. It's not what you would say you want, but it's what ends up happening because you've made that the easy button, and that's where we will default. So give thought to your reading space, your living space. This is a great resource. We use it for homeschooling a lot, Read Aloud Revival. Okay, they bring on different authors and illustrators for children's books and young adult books. Very, very thoughtful material. Marianne Wolf writes this in Reader Come Home. When you speak to your children, you expose them to words that are all around them. A wonderful thing. When you read to your children, you expose them to words they never hear in other places, and to sentences no one around them uses. This is not simply the vocabulary of books. It is the grammar of stories and books and the rhythm and alliteration of rhymes and limericks and lyrics that are not to be found anywhere else quite so delightfully. So read as a family. We've had read-alouds for years. My family loves read-alouds. Even my older children love the read-alouds. Okay? Read aloud to your children. And, you know, if you need a book list, there are all kinds of different places to get book lists. I would start with going to find a mature person who's a reader and say, what do you read? Like in our family, we've read the Green Ember series. Bigglesworth. This is the 1900s war fighter. It's a great adventure series, especially for boys. And it's clean, which I appreciate. Okay? Narnia, Little Britches, The Vanderbeekers, Little Pilgrim's Progress, Shackleton, The Wind in the Willows. I mean, just dozens and dozens and dozens of books. And when you do that, you will actually add to your family's dialect. I remember the day that my wife gave me the book to read. I'm not always there for book time because I'm working. When I am there, she handed me the book to read. There was Little House on the Prairie series. And she goes, read this section. And she totally set me up. This is where the dog Jack dies. Oh my goodness, we were all in tears. Like, you set me up. You didn't tell me I was going to read when Jack dies. So everybody remembers Dad read when Jack died, you know. So, but these become part of your family, right? They become part of your family story and your family language. You want that. Then, okay, I'm going to skip this. Read aloud. Read the Bible out loud. Okay, this does not have to be so hard. A lot of us think this is too hard. No, it's not. You can do this a lot of different ways. If you're already doing it, great. Let me give you an example of how you do it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to talk about the larger picture of what family devotions can look like. I call this a stackable plan, all right? Because I know that not every night is the same. Some nights are crazy busy. You don't have a half an hour. So let's start with if we had a half-hour time block in the evening. And we wanted to do family devotions, what would that look like? Okay, I will give you a model. You may do it differently, and that's perfectly fine. The one that's the best to do is the one you will do, not mine. So if you have one that works for you and you do it, great. Here's what we do. So, Bible comes out. We know. Devotions. Okay, sit down. Everybody finds a seat. Even if the neighbor kids are there. Like, you're here. Have a seat. Devotions. Okay? So here's how this works. Right now we're reading through the Gospel of Mark. Sometimes I'll assign a kid to read. Maybe I read the whole chapter, maybe I read half a chapter. I pick how long I'm going to read. Say it's half a chapter. I read half the chapter. I stop, put the book down, and I say, okay, what was your one thing? What was your one thing? What was your one thing? Tell me one thing you heard. That's it. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes for them to tell their one thing. Everyone does it, done. Sometimes it turns into a 25-minute conversation because it led to a question, it led to this, it led to a story, it led to further reflection. Okay, great. One thing is done. After that, confess the Apostles' Creed. Well, that's weird. Why is that weird? That's your faith, isn't it? Say it out loud. Practice it. After the Apostles' Creed, everybody shares their highs and lows. What was your high for the day? The thing, you know, it's most fun, most joyful. Everybody shares their highs. Everybody shares their lows. Okay, go around highs and lows. After that, the assistant of the day. This is how we avoid fights. You're the assistant today. You go first for food, you pray. Tomorrow, it's the next one. And the next day is the next one. The assistant goes first. We're not arguing about who goes first. Who goes last? I don't care. This is the assistant. This is how we go down the line. So the assistant of the day is going to pray, and then Dad prays, pray the Lord's Prayer, speak the blessing. Now we're getting ready. Now it's sometimes it takes a while to get everybody into their beds, but once I actually get them to their beds, I give them a blessing. That's how this looks. Take the sign of the cross on their forehead, speak a Bible verse over each child. Now, if you only have 3 minutes, bless your children. Here's why. Do you think if your children hear the same biblical blessing spoke over them for thousands of times over years, do you think they'll remember it? If you never even read the Bible to your kids, but you speak the biblical blessing over them every night for years, they will remember. Their goal is the repetition of the action. The goal is to build these simple habits in that you will do over the long haul. You will do it day and night. Something you can do. So let's say I only have 10 minutes, okay? Sometimes I say tonight it's just highs and lows. You didn't read the Bible. Yeah, some nights we didn't have time to read the Bible. But we did highs and lows, and we prayed, and I gave them their blessings. And some nights there isn't even time for that. And it's like, blessings in bed. Right? That's all that's happening tonight because we were out at this thing till who knows what time, or there was too much chaos with kids going different places. It didn't work that night. And I don't go to bed going, I'm a failure. No, I've made a scalable system. And the one thing I will always do is bless my kids. If I have time for more, I'll build the scale up. If I only have time for this, that's what I do. You have to build the systems where you can have success at it. Right? You can't set up, we're going to do an hour of devotions every night. No, you won't. You'll fail at it, and then you'll be like, I'm a failure, we tried it, there's no point in doing it again. Don't set up these impossible standards. Make it scalable so you can do it. Play family games. You should have piles of these things, okay? Sleeping Queens, Rat Attack Cat, Taco versus Burrito, Chameleon, well, we call it Chameleon. Oh, that's right, it's Chameleon, but the kids, one of my kids read it as Shamelin. So we call it Shamelin now, but it's actually Chameleon. Okay. Life, Sorry, Rummy Cube, Mancala, Chess or Checkers, Goblet, Shut the Box, Exploding Kittens. I hate Exploding Kittens. I hate that game. But anyway, because they always win. Racco, Corkle, Blockus, Clumsy Thieves, Taco Cat, Goat Cheese Pizza. I hate that game. It's a brain, like a slapping card game, and I always lose that game too. But have games that take 5 minutes. Have games that take half an hour. Okay, because sometimes you only have 5 minutes. Right? Don't start Monopoly if you've got 10 minutes and you have to go somewhere. Right? Have a pile of, okay, we got 10 minutes, go pick a game. Sit on the floor, sit at the table, whatever. Play, have this stuff available. All right? Think in 3 dimensions. All right. Family meals. You got to fight for these things. Because the world wants to take it away from you. Jonathan Haidt writes this in The Anxious Generation. He says, perhaps the most important embodied activity that binds people together is eating. I find it interesting that Jesus puts the Lord's Supper at the center of our fellowship. Isn't that interesting? Justin Early writes this. Think through all the ways the values of love are communicated over food. We serve each other. We clean up after each other. We take turns. We share. We fight and forgive. We praise and compliment. We express gratitude. We tell stories and ask questions. We listen. We hear each other pray. That all happens in a meal. Not everyone every night, but over time, if we have eliminated the screens, we're not doing this thing at the table, and we are intentionally gathering around the table and sitting down to eat together. It doesn't happen every night, okay? Again, don't set up, we are going to eat supper together 7 nights a week. No, you won't. That's not how life works. But you're going to fight for it as many nights of the week as you can. As many meals as possible. Because it's not just about the food. It's also about all the things I just read. And, now, this shouldn't be a hard question to answer. Who here finds eating pleasurable? Now, notice what's going to happen. Eating's a pleasurable experience. I'm having a pleasurable experience in the presence of these people. Now, subconsciously, what do you think we're connecting? Pleasurable experience, these people. Pleasurable experience, these people. I like these people. I have pleasurable experiences when I'm with them. Now, I know they're going to fight like cats and dogs. I have 6 kids. I know what supper can be like. Stop insulting your sister. Shut your mouth. Get your hands off of her, right? I know what those meals are like. I've seen it. Okay, yes, he coughed and didn't cover his mouth. I know, all right? He didn't sneeze in his elbow. I know, okay? You've never done that before. I know what meals are like, all right? But you still got to fight for these things because all these things that happen around that meal, they are doing such important things for us as people, all right? Take family walks, all right? Go outside. Take family walks. Sometimes we'll go on a family walk, and we'll tell the kids, especially when they were younger, but we still have a 9-year-old, so the 9-year-old, the 13-year-old, and even the 15-year-old sometimes we'll do this. We'll say, grab a Ziploc bag, and you're going to bring back a piece of nature. All right, we're going to bring it back, and we're going to see what you found. All right, so now they have a mission. They're going to bring something back. My kids have really taken to doing archaeological digs in the creek because I guess it used to be like a dump sort of thing. Wow, the treasures they have come back from. I tell you what, there are some real gems. We actually have a jar of just there was food in it before, and they put all their broken pieces of glass of all different colors in this jar. So it's like a piece of decoration for them is their broken archaeological stuff, right? So, but then a number of snake skins and skulls. I don't know how many skulls we have. We have a whole room called the Nature Nook, and it's just rocks. Oh my goodness, rocks, fossils, sticks, you name it, right? Right, exactly right. We're getting outside. We're living in 3 dimensions. We're talking about it. What have we found? What have we seen? What do you think the story is on this item we dug up, right? What kind of animal is this? Now look, there will be a place where screens can come into this because there's this thing called Google Lens. Let's try to figure out what that thing is. Google Lens is a cool tool. It can tell you, oh, that's a deer skull. Oh, that's a raccoon skull, right? There's some cool stuff. Again, screens don't have to have no place in your life, but you need to be intentional about where they are, all right? I would also offer this, learn an instrument. I mean, the brain scans that they do on people who are not only listening to music, but learning an instrument, the number of connections across regions of the brain that are made are astonishing. One of the reasons we're not learning instruments today is because of these. Because this is easy. I watch it happen every year at our school. Like, we homeschool, but our kids go to school for band and cross country and Spanish. We're technically dual enrolled. But I watch the band, 5th grade, lots of kids showing up for band. 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. I talked to a lot of the kids like, yeah, it was too hard, practice. What'd you do? Oh, I played Fortnite. Well, heck, some of it. I don't blame you. It is more fun to play Fortnite than practice the instrument at first. Until you get to a level of proficiency and you can create music. I watched my oldest sit down and be able just to play on the piano. So 4 of our kids play organ. So we have organ, piano, French horn, trumpet, oboe, another French horn, and my wife plays flute. I don't play any instruments. I just made noise on the trombone in high school. That's all I did. But my son now has my trombone, so it's getting used. I wish I would have stayed with it. But to be able, think about this. It's going to take you, to get to proficiency, it takes about 10,000 hours, right? To get to a real place. But then you can just sit down and create. Tolkien called it being sub-creators. God the creator, we the sub-creator, right? You have to believe that pushing through those periods of tedium and boredom of learning scales, right? This is going to produce a level of freedom and create creative potential that you're not going to know otherwise if you hit that easy button, right? So do these things, right? It can be done. You're just going to have to tame the screens in your life. You just have to tame them, right? So, okay, I'm going to skip forward here. I'm going to skip this guy. I'm going to come here. Again, like I said when we started, make the church the hub of your life, right? The thing around which everything else must move. And appreciate and celebrate and understand this idea of this embodied experience that's happening in the worship context in 3 dimensions, right? And appreciate. There is nothing virtual about God's forgiveness, nothing virtual about His grace. God actually makes it tangible. This is so profound that God makes forgiveness tangible in water, forgiveness tangible in bread and wine, forgiveness audible through the spoken word of the pastor, right? There's something happening in 3 dimensions that not only is a benefit for us eternally, it sets a model for us to say, here's how you will flourish as people, all right? So, okay, now, what I want to do is actually I'm going to do the one thing, but also I mentioned several books. Some up here I didn't mention: The Collapse of Parenting, Atomic Habits, You Are What You Love, The Common Rule, Wired Child. I mentioned that briefly. The Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis. That's a very thoughtful book. Losing Ourselves to Death, Screen School, The Tech Wise Family by Andy Crouch, and Digital Liturgies by Samuel James. Also, two websites. One's a video. Screen Strong. They actually have a book out. I didn't put it up here. I forget the title of it right now. They do a lot of research on screens and brains, especially young people. So if you really want to geek out on some of this stuff, and they actually have a podcast also. I think it's called Screen Strong. I can't remember exactly, but Melanie Hempy is her name, who runs this. A lot of great data, a lot of great resources, and they just came out with a book, which is on my desk in my office, but I haven't read it yet. So I point you to Screen Strong. The Social Dilemma really is it's a video put out. I forget who puts it out, but it's basically interviewing a lot of your individuals who were in the tech world, who have been repulsed by it and now see the monster they've created, and they're being interviewed and telling you some of the ways that they work to manipulate people. It's so if you're not going to read a book, first of all, I'm sorry you won't read a book. You'd be much fuller as a person if you would. But if you won't, watch the video. I think it'll do a lot to open your eyes, and I've shared a lot of it already. But this will give you the personal stories of the people who have lived it and come out of it, and why they don't want their kids involved in it. Right? People who created the tech are trying to protect their kids from the thing they created. So that's something certainly to consider. I'll do the one thing, but I need to put this up there as well. Thank you for supporting LFS. Right? I mean, you know Casey works at LFS, and I know I don't need to give you any commercial for LFS because I know you know this, but they do some important things. Okay, they not just what Casey and I do, but like with the adoption, with Down syndrome adoption, with embryo adoption, with life advocacy, with their congregational outreach department, which what I serve in, a lot of the educational pieces that we travel around the state bringing to people, right? So you support LFS, that allows us to do exactly what we're doing here today. And Casey does a lot with counseling and support groups. I mean, you see how people have been impacted by this in counseling? You run across this a lot?
Yeah, I had a client that was mid-20s, struggled with OCD and anxiety for a long time. And when we started looking at the tech piece, I'm like, how often are you on here? And like, she got off of it and noticed her anxiety level go down significantly. But she was also brought up in that generation where she just had it.
It was an extension of her.
Yep.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. So thank you for supporting LFS. But let me now go back. I do want to hear your one thing. So one thing from the last session and one thing from the whole thing. Someone give me one thing, one takeaway.
That pinwheel phone.
Pinwheel phone. Yeah, I encourage parents who, like, you get kids in these early teen years, and it's like, I really don't want another phone. But there are times to be nice because I need to know when to pick them up, right? So I see it as it's a useful thing, and my daughter's not addicted to it because it can do certain things. It has a function, and that's been good. Yes, please.
I say we have to be intentional.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. We have to tune into our lives, right? Beware of the default. Beware of the easy button, right? Because we are lazy by nature, right? Very good. Yes?
Pixelated life.
Yes, the our unpixelated life. We are made for more than our screens, aren't we? Good job. Good listening. All right, somebody else. Thank you. One thing.
I appreciated the what do you do stuff, and also the allowing for imperfections in what do you do, because I mean, yeah.
But you're there.
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
First praying tonight. Pray get in bed. First.
I call this my noggin knocker. I knocked a lot of noggins with it, right? Because I got some knuckleheads, right? Exactly, yes.
Instruments are something else.
Yeah, man, they are. Learn an instrument. It really is so encouraging to me. I mean, okay, I'll tell you a personal story. I had this moment. I didn't even see it coming. So my kids started taking organ lessons years ago now. And through a total gift of God, we made a connection with a man who's now in a nursing home with dementia. But Dr. Christensen is his name. And he is a man who'd given himself to music and would come to us to teach our kids organ. Which, in rural Iowa, he'd come from Council Bluffs, 90 miles. Okay, so I realized my organists that I had were evaporating. They were leaving. And I suddenly had a child taking organ lessons, and at the time, he was 11 years old, and I didn't have any other organist, and he was learning. And so I found myself standing at the organ bench, singing the hymns in the liturgy with my son who's playing the organ. And it was a very powerful moment for me as a dad, because it's not a proud moment. There's no pride here. It was a humble moment. Because I thought, man, you stupid man, you just stumbled into this. You had no plan whatsoever. And now you have a son who is delighting in the liturgy and delighting in the hymns, and you're singing them as he's learning to play them for the congregation. And I had the chance to do that with, my second son does not play organ, but for every child who does play organ, I've had the opportunity to sing the hymns with them, and they lead worship. And I just totally stumbled into that, and it's because we decided as a family we're going to prioritize. They're going to have a sport, and they're going to learn an instrument. We're going to do these things. And so we stumbled into it. A lot of imperfections, yes. Be okay with that, right? That's the thing that kills so much of our efforts. We think it has to be perfect. We tried it, it wasn't, so we quit. It's not about perfection. It's about repeating it. It's about over the long haul. It's about doing this for, 20 years. It's the repetition which is the key, not perfection. Anybody else, please?
So one thing, and then also something that I've been reflecting on too. So one of the things I think again that just comes back to the time that's used on tech in general, like social media or gaming and those sorts of things, and away from the development of a family system. I liked the lingo that you use in your family about familect, the development of an actual family culture and an ethos within the home, and not just sitting on a screen or sitting on a computer or gaming system. And something I think, at least for us, something that our family, I think we sort of accidentally fell into it, but we've taken up golfing, which has been a really excellent.
Great.
It has been. When we're thinking about it in terms of the presentation that you were making, like taking up an instrument, I think is really, really great. I would, of course, encourage all my kids to do it, but the actual act of golfing with individual mastery, but also being able to do it as a group and complement each other on the course and being outside and all sorts of things. Yeah. I'm rethinking. We should golf more. We need to golf a lot more.
No, because you're right.
Well, maybe it's a golf outing you need to do for sure.
Yeah.
No, what you're building there is key. So we don't go to a golf course. We have a big open field in our back of our church, and they actually plant a stick out in it, and we have golf clubs. And the first person to hit the stick with the ball, that's how we golf. But it's a great game, right?
Yeah.
It's a great game, and all the things you just talked about. It's not really about the ball.
Yeah, see, it's not just about me.
Yes, someone else have one thing? Anybody else? Yes, please.
No, I was just scratching.
Okay, good. That's acceptable. All right, I want to say thank you for having me. It's been a delight to be with you. Again, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Very much.
Everybody stick around because there's still a light lunch for you.
Yep. All right.